Going. This is Don Lorg welcoming Midwest City and Shawnee to the Farming CE class. 3 hours elective. We have in the room several that will be participating with you. So if I don't look at you once in a while, it's because I'm looking at them. And if I don't look at you once in a while, it's because I'm looking at them. If you're looking at this, you're not getting CE credit, by the way, if you're not here. So, but you might be getting some good farming information. And so I'm going to start. Everybody in the room so far has signed in, gave me your license number, and got 2 handouts. Frank's got 2 handouts. That's what I like. I got these. All right, I got mine. And I've got the PowerPoint on. I don't know. I can see it in the screen a little bit. The presenter is me. This thing is not going to move, I don't think, without me. Let me just do that. All right, there we go. Then it moved. So let's start this thing. First of all, I don't know where I got this, but I wrote it down. It's not part of the class, I don't think. It's part of mine. Here's what it says. Everything we do is a seed. Don't give to get. When we give, we get. I don't know where I got this, but some preacher probably. He says, plant, reap, plant, process. Never eat your seed. And now I'm a farm boy. I grew up on 20 years on a farm, milked the cows by hand, fed them every morning, had the pigs, fed them every morning, the chickens. I grew out of the chickens. By the time I was 6, I had brothers and sisters. They had to be useful for something. And so, anyway, never eat your seed. We must plant, we must water, we must wait, and we must apply the sun. Well, I got S-O-N and S-U-N both here, depending on your belief system. So anyway, that's how I want to start this up today. Farming is something we're doing on a constant basis. If you walk down the hall and you planted a smile, you might get one. You might get one back. Now, the idea of planting one thing is to get multiple things back. Because most crops, when you put one seed in the ground, do not produce one seed. They produce 20, 30, many seeds sometimes out of one. That's the principle that we're going to try to apply today. In fact, I guess here at Keller Williams, we're talking about bold again, coming up, I think, on the 29th. We can't be saying the word try for a while. We don't try. Remember, that's one of the nasty words. Somebody says, well, I'm trying to. No, you can't try. You should intend. I'm intending to this or that or the other. So I'm going to try not to use the word try as much today. But we'll see how it goes. I'll intend to use other words. All right. Now, you guys have the PowerPoint pages. You guys don't? Deal with it. That's all I know to tell you. I mean, that's all you're not getting credit. What do you want? Anyway, so then the other one I've got here is just a thing that I printed off. That's a year or so I found it, and it was a study it was just an article from Leeds Blueprints, and so I found some things interesting about it here. So let's look at this. What is farming? Farming equals market segment, equals narrow market segment, equals niche. And a niche could be, a farm could be where do they live? That could be just a community. You could be farming a neighborhood, where they live. Who are they? You could be farming a demographic focused on baby boomers, millennials, first-time buyers, luxury homes, I mean, just any variety of different kinds of farms. What we tend to think when I say, okay, let's talk about farming, we all, I bet you, walked in the room and said, well, I'm going to have to pick a neighborhood. I think I'll probably consider mine one of them. But that's what we think about in terms of farming. And it's so much more than that. That's what I hope to cover today. Forget me, I got people in Midwest City asking me questions about the next classes during the class. Tell Roberta I'll get back with her as soon as I can. And so, anyway, so what do they like? So that could be a psychographic group where your farm is people that used to live on farms, people that like John Deere tractors, people that enjoy landscaping or working in their yard. Not Rick over here. No, he's had enough of that. Trying to get rid of it, hand that off. But it's a psychographic. In other words, a group of people. I recall one of our friends at, I don't know if she's still over there now. It used to be Paradigm. Haven't seen Maggie in a while, but she had a picture on her business card of her dogs, 2 dogs and Maggie. And one time I asked Maggie, I said, how much business did you get as a result of just marketing or promoting yourself as somebody that likes dogs? And she says, well, it's almost all of my business. Well, so how big are you into this? Well, and she said, we have dogs that are show animals. We go to shows all over the place. And we are the resident expert realtor when we arrive at those places while we're doing our dog stuff. And people say, well, you have a place where I can set up a kennel in the back, or, I'm the person that, first of all, appreciates what you need. And secondly, I know how to find it. But most of her business, from a psychographic group farm, I'm not sure she knew what she was doing. I think she just thought she was getting up and going to the dog show, and people kept asking her about real estate. But she's farming a psychographic area, a common interest. And that's what can be fun about this. You can think about it yourself. What are the things I'm interested in? Who are the people that I would just like to hang around and have conversation with and maybe be friends with on Facebook and so on? That we can talk about what that interest is. Along the way, we discover what they do for a living besides that, what I do for a living, besides that interest, and how do we help each other out just because we like each other, trust each other, respect each other, and we have knowledge of different things. I mean, Rick doesn't necessarily want to be in the landscape business anymore, but I can ask him a question about a tree or how to trim a bush or when to trim one, even though he's in real estate, and I can get good information because I know what his background is, I know what he knows. Now, there's a whole bunch of people like that out there. So,
you said now it's consulting. I've seen you do.
Consulting, yeah. Oh, now I can see it.
Yeah. No, seriously. I was just making that up.
Now, Rick has discovered QuickBooks, and it's easy. 2 buttons and you got the bill. I mean, you just walk around and pull a thing out of your pocket, put it on your iPhone, and swipe your card, and you've paid it. But that's right. If you have knowledge, it's got value. So a lot of this today, we're going to get to a page that says, come from contribution. That's a key to every bit of this. If you're not contributing something to them, you're not probably going to be welcome in the conversation. So farming, and there they are. Geographic, where they live, or where are they? What country, state, area, subdivision, neighborhood, street? I suppose I should look at my own notes. Demographic, what I just said. What age, gender, income, occupation, language. So when I have, I need Tulio over here. When I have Tulio sit in the room, he can service a group of people that speak a language that I cannot serve. I can get to CASA, Muy bien. Gracias. That's about it. We're done. No comprendo. Yeah, no comprende. I can get there. I need that one first of all. Casa. Gracias. No comprendo. You know. And so, to deal. But that's an area where your uniqueness. So if I got somebody in one of our other offices that has that skill set, that's leverageable, it's valuable. Matter of fact, Frank, I think you were one mentioning that you were dealing with a transaction. Was it you that had somebody come along and had to interpret some recently?
Well, it's back in the summer. The daughter was the only one who spoke English, so she had to translate everything to her parents as we were looking at houses.
Yeah, and she could, and she did, and you got there. Didn't get there.
They were supposedly weren't ready to buy.
Yeah, okay.
They were, and then they weren't.
Got to the point where you could determine whether they were ready or not or whatever. And had they been ready, you probably could have navigated it the rest of the way, thanks to the dollar.
Absolutely.
And that's the experience I've had many times where the buyers didn't speak a lick of English. And I could say gracias on the way home or on the way out the door. And the rest of it was communication through a child sometimes. And we would get to the end of the transaction because, just because we at least had somebody to interpret it. Now, psychographic, that's the one where we don't think about this, but that's the most fun one of the bunch as far as I'm concerned. What's your hobby? You have one? And if you do, you can go find a group on Facebook or on social media or on Instagram or whatever that has the same hobby and the same interest and just become part of their dialogue. And in the process, bring value. If somebody says, you need a bigger garden, I know how to solve that. Yeah, Rick.
What's his name? Brett Boone. Have you heard that name?
Yes.
The Lamborghini he drives to Carson Coffee in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
He sponsored Carson Coffee. So,
yeah, because that's a psychographic.
I know.
But when Brett says,
except when the Volkswagen Club shows up, and I'm the only realtor in Volkswagen.
Now there you go. The Volkswagen Club is a psychographic group. I've seen the thing myself. Which one is it? Blue or yellow?
Purple.
Blue and yellow. Purple.
Yeah. So now we change it for the world because it's only one out of 430 cars that cover.
But see, 430 cars have 430 owners that have the same interest and so on, and that's a gold mine. And I could do that calculation, not in my head necessarily right now, but take 400 divided by 12, and that's how many opportunities a year there are for real estate business among the people driving those Volkswagens. But Brett, it's just another area of interest, but it's like a calling card.
Yeah.
It's just a calling card. When I pull up and it's so noisy, you kind of stop your conversation because it's too loud. He starts that thing up. When I teach over there, we just stop and let him drive out before we continue because you can't talk, it's so loud. And so interest, hobbies, lifestyles, values, just a group from the church, that's a psychographic group. You have common values, property preferences, investments, condos. Sandy, investment properties. When she got into real estate, she had investment properties, I don't know how many, 10 or 12, 15, something like that, and she was managing those herself. As she went along, people that were interested in investment properties migrated to her because she just had knowledge on the subject. She understood how much rent you could get for that. And then she could kind of know, here's what you got to pay for that in order to make the cash flow work for this. By the way, there is a class that's Stephanie Holloway is doing, or Stuart Title is doing. They just advertised it this morning on Thursday. I'm thinking of our focus group maybe moving it over to there because it conflicts with that timeline. But
yeah, I want to go to that too.
That would be worth going to so we can understand that world a little better if we're not in it and talk a little more intelligently sounding as a result of just information we have. And I have had rental property in the past, so I can speak to it a little bit. But what do they like? So those are the 3 questions on that previous page. And that dictates a little bit, maybe what your farm is. And so, all right, let's see what's next. Oh, we got some myths. That's probably where I pull this page up. Let me see. Let me look at page 11. See what it says here. See what the myths are. I'm still in the camera as far as it's all the way up to here. All the way up to here, Kendall, they can still see me in the picture. Pretty important. I want them to see me. Now, what I've discovered is I look a lot better from over here than I do from over here. That's just a personal observation I've made. All right, let's look at the myth though. Farming takes too long and costs too much. They're calling that a myth. What do you think? Is that a myth? That, you say, well, the class, that's why I came to the class, for God's sake. I got to figure out which one's which. I mean, you could say it isn't inexpensive to farm an area if you're going to get to know everybody in it. But they say farming can become the core of your business. So there is probably some expense initially. Let me see, I just pull these. If we're going to choose an area, in a residential area, for instance, once we've chosen an area to work, it is now our business to become the local expert. We laugh a little bit when Mark Wilkinson walks into a party and he's done a little CMA before he went. So that if somebody says, what do you do? He say, well, I don't know if you may not recognize me, but I'm the local real estate expert. Now those words are clever, but then, well, how is the market? Well, as a matter of fact, recently we did some research in this neighborhood. I happened to bring it with me today just in case somebody might ask me. Here, let me pull it out and just see. There are X number of houses in this neighborhood. There are this many properties for sale every year. This is what they sell for. Here's how long they take on average to sell. Here's what the list to sales price ratio is. Why do you ask? But that's a good little script. But just going to the kid's birthday party at their friend's house means we're getting ready to do a CMA. Huh? Oh, for God's sake. And where does the kids, we're going to McDonald's at the party, but where do they live? We might just go ahead and study that before we go, just in case it comes up. And if they don't bring it up, you can say, by the way, do you know that in your neighborhood, there are 10 houses for sale? And last year, 25 sold the whole year. And by the way, they're getting 97% of their asking price. How long have you lived in your house? So it becomes part of the conversation that farm is beyond just the streets of that area. In fact, a good farm, we'll get into it a little bit, but I mean, it needs to come beyond the way to where you're coming from home to your office or whatever, something that's not far out of the way. It's kind of on the way. Because on the way, you need to be pulling off to drive through and see if there's any new for sale by owners in there. Virtually every day, at least once a week. And then for sure, on your expired listings, on your hot sheet, when you open up the MLS and your hot sheet says new expireds in that area. Or just have the area pulled up and literally anything that happens in there, it's like a buyer. You can set yourself up like you're a buyer in certain subdivision, whatever, and every time anything comes up, expires, pending, sold, active, it just notifies you like it would a buyer if there was something new come on the market match them. That keeps you as the resident expert, so because you're being notified, and I put ASAP on there, not once a day or once a week. ASAP, it pops up, and that makes you the expert in the right now on the latest happening in that area. Because I don't know if they recognize you or not, I hope they're going to recognize you at some point, but if you're going to be recognized as the local real estate expert, it's your business to know all of that. It's also your business to know what's going on the corner down here. What is that, what kind of a business is that? All that, new church building, whatever. The community itself is your business that area is served by. And so I watch Casey Kinney comes to mind. I get a notice from her about once a month. Casey's, used to work here at this office, went to work at Elite. She lives out in the Yukon area now. And she's now selling hundreds of properties a year, consulting with people that were top producers here when she came brand new. But once a month, I get Casey Eats newsletter. She sends it out to everybody she knows, and it's, here's where we went last week or this month and had something to eat. Here's a picture of me and the daughter, me and the husband, just the kids, but we're having, here's something, the menu, whatever. But it's commentary on the community. And it's just Casey Eats. So this particular newsletter is just about where we went to eat in the territory we serve, in case it might interest you. And so it becomes, can become a foundation of your business. Myth number 2, someone else already dominates the area. There aren't many of those. There's not many. Now,
those are called wallies. Weeds. You just gotta pull them up to get rid of.
Wally,
I'm sorry, did I say well? I meant weeds. If your farm is weeds, that's all you need to get rid of. So, sorry.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
So those are no goods.
now, Rick,
Well,
here, think about this. If we are going to, for instance, farm a territory, a neighborhood, it would be wise to do a market study of that neighborhood to determine a couple of things. One, does anybody ever move in this neighborhood? Because you could become the resident expert recognized in a neighborhood that nobody ever moves in. And there are a few of them where nobody moves. They've been there for years, they're going to die there, then they're going to move. They are going to move, but then they carry them out.
They only have the grass to talk about, so they're gonna tell everybody about you if you bring them any information.
Well, that's true. That's true. However, I would say you need to be looking at a territory that has some turnover.
Sure.
Some turnover. And so that's, that'll lead me to this, where's that other piece of paper? Oh, right here. I got some other piece of paper in my hand. Leads me to this piece of paper. It says farming on the upper left-hand corner. Let's take a look at it while we're right here. Because this was an interesting little study. This says farming, 5 common challenges with farming. And so it's got them listed. One of them is agents inconsistently interact with their farm. And another one is the area is too large to serve. And another one is they're not using the right message. And the other one, another number 4 is no face-to-face time. And 5, weak and untargeted messaging. So then it goes through each one of those and talks about the problem and the solution. So I think we ought to look at this a little bit. I've just highlighted a little bit. Under number 1, agents inconsistently interact with their farm. That second paragraph, the problem, say agents are doing this. Many agents feel that simply putting a stake in the ground and marking the territory is enough to establish a farm. So if you just say to me, I'm going to farm such and such neighborhood, that's like you put a stake in the ground, but that's all you've done. Solution, that's what I like about this. Problem, solution. So often I hear the problem. Not always do I get to hear the solution, or at least an idea. By the way, if you're going to complain about something, I recommend you bring me the problem and your idea on the solution before you bring me the problem. Otherwise, it's just complaining. We don't have a department. I don't have a department like that. Complaint department, I think that goes to Casey, I guess. Solution. Interacting with a farm is similar to how an agent already systematically markets to their database. As with most relationship building lead generation programs, committing to outlining and following a system of frequent touches is key for establishing the connection. So we're looking for, right there, that last sentence, to gain significant mind share. So inconsistent interaction with the farm does not let you create what they're calling mind share. When somebody in that neighborhood says, I wonder what my house is worth, or I wonder what the house down the street that just came on the market is priced at. Do you come up in their mind at all with that question? Because if you have mind share, they're saying, I wonder if Frank could let me know what the house down the street would come up for. I wonder if Frank can let me know maybe what my house is worth versus I wonder, and no name. Now, this other one, let's look here. Territory too large. And so territory is too broad, unable to understand the communities and the demographics. So it's so big that you just can't get your arms around who lives there. What are their interests? Because if you're living in one neighborhood and there's a lot of kids and their families in that season of their life, where there's 5, 6, 7-year-old child kids going to elementary school and all that goes with that, some that are seniors, they're living in it where an area they're a little bit older, they have graduating seniors or kids in college. It's a different set of interests. So this says the problem with territory being too large is without a clear grasp of the area, agents don't present themselves as a member of the community. They cannot make themselves a fixture in it. And then as a result, they're unable to differentiate. What's different between you and you? You don't understand this any better than this guy does, because neither of you are involved or a part of the community experience. Solution. I always love to get the solution. Most effective farms are those an agent can service without feeling like they've gotten in over their head because they've corralled off too large an area. When zeroing in and establishing an effective farm, it's helpful to judge the area under consideration against a set of criteria that other agents have used, such as ensuring that it has a minimum of 7% turnover, this says. This material I'm showing you on the board up here actually is going to say that the turnover nationally is about 15% annually. But this is saying here, at least have 7% turnover. This material here on the screen will say 10%. At some point, I'll have a screen or something that shows that. But there's the range. Somewhere between 7 and 10% of the population of that area needs to be moving annually. So all you do is pull up the MLS, you put pendings and solds in there, you go back 12 months, and see how many of those people put a house on the market. Then you go see how big the area is, how many houses are in there, and then divide the small number by the big number, and you get the percentage of people moving. But that's the guide, 7% turnover per year. And then this says at least 300 homes. That's probably a pretty good size. I would say no smaller than 200 if you're choosing a geographic area. Now, if you're thinking of demographic, psychographic, it's the same kind of a number. Are there 300 members? How many in your Volkswagen group?
430.
430, sufficient.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the thing. How big is it? If it's a group of 20, well, there's some opportunity in there. About 1.5 transactions a year, if you get them all.
Average investment per car is $36,000.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're talking about a price range that Rick wants to be in on average. And he's got a sphere of influence through that landscaping business of 5, 6, 8, $100,000, $1 million properties. That's valuable, but it's unique to him, because of the previous experience in his work life. No single agent, here's the thing, 300 homes, 7% or so, I'd say 7 to 10% turnover at least, 300 homes, that means 30 houses a year, if it's 10%, are turning over. Question then becomes, how many of those 30 will you get? And then the next one is, no single agent has more than 30% market share. So you look at the sold properties in the last 12 months, and you see who sold them, who listed them, or who got the buyers, but mainly who listed them. And if one of them has roughly 1/3 of them or more, then make a conscious decision. Who is it? Can I go in and compete with them and bring a better value proposition? Or do I want to fight a battle somewhere else where there's no dominant player? Now, it's pretty rare from my experience that dominant players exist, because farming went out at a style back 30 years ago somewhat. But we've got people in Keller Williams selling 1,000+ units a year, and that's their thing. They just farm. But they're so big into it that they have their own warehouse with tools, lawnmowers, rakes, ladders, bush trimming equipment, extension cords, all the stuff you could need to take care of a piece of property if you own one. They're so big into farming that they say, if you buy a house through us, we'll let you come and use our tools over here, no cost. As if you need them, you're putting up lights at Christmas time, you need a 28-foot ladder, we got one, come on over and use it, no problem. That's a brilliant way to keep that community engaged with you, because they got a reason several times a year to come up and use your tools. And at 1,000 units, 10% turnover, that's at least 100. And if you got, some of these guys at 30 to 40,000 units, they're managing now. But they didn't start there. They started with 200 or 300 and created the systems, the machinery, the systems and machinery, and then they basically expanded. Because see, if you're going to have a $300,000 farm area, you kind of need another $180,000, $200,000 next door farm area to feed it. So that when you have open houses and you do have something comes on the market in the area, you go to the move up area and say, hey, we got something over here that might be of interest to you. And the $300,000 guy, where's the move up place for him? And occasionally, we got baby boomers in this mix. They're not moving up. They'll move laterally price-wise, but they'll move down in size and maintenance. So just in thinking about what are all the dynamics of this thing, so you can see how much thought can go into it. But I mean, I know for years, the market study was the first thing we'd do. I'd have people come to me and say, I want to farm this area. So, okay, come in here, let's sit down. Let me see if there's anybody moving, first of all. And number two, what is the turnover in the area, and is there a dominant player? And then make the decision. You want to go after this or not? And because in that conversation, I could identify what price range and location, school district they want to work. And then, as part of the study, what other options are there besides this area? And is there anybody? So if there's 15 sales in the last 12 months and not the same realtor didn't sell 2 of them, there is no dominant player. There's no person in that community that is the local resident expert. And it's wide open for you right then. So anyway, that little paragraph right there, I'd say is I would, 7 to 10% turnover. I'd love to see at least 10 myself. Just as a guide. But this says 7, I'll take it, because that's under the heading of solution. Let's see. Not incorporating the right message. I'm going to go straight to the solution. What an agent determines as his or her value proposition should be presented clearly on all marketing material. So what is that? I was just talking to Casey in this room earlier today after our all the 5 minute and up focus group, and he's speaking. One of our agents that basically is thinking about farming an area, and he basically had an idea that maybe he would discount his fees a little bit. So I said, well, he doesn't need to, I don't think. Although one person, he lost one listing to somebody that listed a house cheaper. But in that moment, our person just decided, okay, well, we're equal to them, not superior to them in terms of our value proposition. So if in our mind, we're just equal to the average guy that has one office with 15 people working in it, that can't do anything to compete except drop his fee because of the value proposition he brings, then if that's true in our mind, it's true. But then I told Casey, I said, well, yeah, But that then assumes that that guy with one office and 25 agents has the same marketing power as a company with 13 offices and 800 agents that has 20 to 25% of all the buyers that buy a house every year coming through their offices to buy them, and ranks number one in the city area in terms of market share and buyers. If we don't buy that, we're not going to sell it. Number two, if that guy's negotiating ability with the 25 agents in his office is not good enough to even negotiate a fair fee, what skill set does he have to apply in order to negotiate a fair price? So we have training on how to negotiate and where to draw the standards in our mind because of the value proposition. Because it's easy to just go out there and say, hey, I'll do it for less. You still might not get it because there's always somebody else that'll do it for less. By the time you match them, they'll drop it another half or a quarter. You know, it never ends. And that's what I told Casey. I said, if we take that philosophy and go with it, it doesn't just contain itself around that agent. It contains itself across all of our agents now. That's the new standard. And we have to fight for the value proposition. Now, if we walk in there, we are worth 3%. We shouldn't be asking for more. But if our value proposition is at least, and I have proof from studies that it's worth at least 5.5. From a study in California where they did the study and determined what agent-assisted transactions versus first-time owner transaction difference in sales prices were, and that one was 5.5%. But then you take I don't have it laying here now, the NAR stats where the average sales price is about 200 or so, 210 for sell-by-owned properties, and it's 265 or 70, something like that for agent-assisted across the country, members of NAR. And the demographic is they both are 55 years old. They both make $103,100 or within $200 of income of the same. It's the same people, same age group, same people on average. So you can't say, well, no, all the for sale owners just are cheaper priced houses. No, they're the same houses. But they're getting way more than 5.5% less for them, partly because they're not paying 6%, and everybody knows it before they ever start the conversation. So anyway, I don't know how I got off on that. Value proposition. We have got to be clear on it. What is our unique value proposition when we walk in? And if you're brand new the first day at Keller Williams, you've got the market share value proposition going for you. You've got people in your office looking to sell some houses. I know when we came from our previous company, I had gone years without anybody in my company selling one of my listings, and I'm selling to the tune of 60 to 70 a year. Nobody in my company sold my listings. I sold them, or it was a cross sale. I came over here, and the first 90 days, I brought 12 listings over here. I think the first 4 sales we had were in this office. I said, what is going on? I still didn't understand. I still don't know why that, but I mean, all of a sudden our listings were selling by people in this office. And we didn't incentivize that anymore, other than all of us had share and profit share. And there is a benefit from a business model standpoint if we sell each other's listings, but there's no incentive. We could pay them any more than we would anybody else. But that has value because now you have better control. The quality of the service is more consistent because the players are all trained at an equal level. And you don't have somebody that's completely incompetent on one side of the transaction working with somebody that's completely competent, frustrated by them. And if they're in-house, we're all pulling together because all of us were completely incompetent once. And we cared about that and want to help each other. But there may not be anybody in their building that cares or wants to help you because there's no benefit to that. You know, there's no profit share, nothing, there's no benefit to it. All right, value proposition. That's a long conversation about that this evening. Yeah, now I want to, under that section, under solution, the agent's core message is, or the why that influences potential clients. And then the next one, remember that people will search for them online as well. So it's wise to set up a web page specifically about that neighborhood being farmed. So as a piece of the farming thing, if you're going to do a geographic, actually any demographic, psychographic, anyway, but certainly a farming, a geographic area, it'd be good for you to set up the Facebook page. It'd be good for you to have a website that you've put together, managed, that basically is part, is the local website, and then promote it to the neighbors. And the neighbors can communicate in there if they see somebody strange walking up the street, or there's like in our neighborhood, we got somebody going door to door again after dark. I told them, get out of here, call the cops. That's part of the conversation on the Facebook page that we helped create. So ultimately, we aren't in there all the time, but we reply and respond as part of the conversation. It doesn't have to be much about real estate, but it is about life in here. And we are part of that experience. And so, I don't know if you need to go as far as being, if there's an HOA, being an officer in that world or not, but it is a way for people to get to know who you are and what you do. And they get to see you picking up trash out the entrance. And they see you do more than just stand there hoping somebody will send you business. You actually contribute to the environment and so on. Number 4, no face-to-face time. Agents mistakenly believe they can receive leads by simply mailing a message to the farm. And that's the thing, that's the problem. So the solution, a combination of popular prospecting and marketing techniques seen outside farming are equally successful at capturing mind share of the farm. This includes sending direct mail, door knocking, cold calling, sponsoring community events, and holding open houses. Holding open houses, door knocking, meeting the people. So ultimately, that all works in terms of creating a face-to-face opportunity. What we're looking for is somebody to like you, trust you, respect you, and then remember you. They cannot like you, trust you, respect you if they never meet you. And if you're just a postcard picture, a pretty picture on a postcard, there's no relationship there. And that goes back to that Dick Dillingham conversation where he's basically saying, what's the definition of junk mail? Junk mail is getting something from somebody about something you don't care about. Now, you get a consumer impression for an instance, but it's just junk mail. You can elevate it from junk mail to something relevant by just them knowing, like you, and trusting you. No, I don't need to move. I don't know what anybody's thinking about moving. But I love Kendall. She's helped me before when I wondered what should is my property overvalued when my tax bill comes this time of year, or around the first of the year, and wondered what the house was down the street. But that dynamic. So anyway, all right, untargeted messaging. Problem is, because they aren't taking the time to understand the needs of the area they are trying to serve, agents aren't able to deliver an effective message that resonates with the community. So it goes back to, do we have young kids? Do we have older kids? Do you have college kids? Do we have retirement people? Who lives here? And that's the message that we need to get out. One great way to find that out is just talk to them. And they may not come to the door. But on Saturday, they might be out there working in the yard. And you could be just going down the street with your kids or just something. I don't know, just something looked like a harmless enough person. Hattie's popped in.
But it didn't start till 2.
What? 1 o'clock?
Darn.
You would come for the senior class?
I'm sorry.
Pop in. Nothing says 2 that I know of that we send out.
You're looking at
Welcome.
Welcome, Patty. We are recording, Bobby.
I'm just staying for 2 hours out there.
Anyway, so weak messaging, but solution. Agents that succeed in establishing farms do their research by asking community members for feedback and listening to results. They begin by calling a number of homes in the farm area to ask them what they thought of their most recent farming tactic. In other words, if you sent them something, what did you think about it? I sent you some information recently or dropped it off to do with the sold properties or new active listings, just real estate stuff. What did you think about it? Following up on that. And then a postcard, a mailer, or some other kind of approach. An agent is most valuable to their farm when they effectively deliver value that the customer needs. So we're on this little piece of paper right here, second page there. And so we were talking about the, what was it, the five common challenges with farming. And so anyway, now 6 common opportunities. It says 1, find someone who will do it for you. There's a paragraph on that. So if you can hire somebody to help you with delivering things or whatever, but that does not achieve your met them face-to-face challenge, which is the biggest challenge as far as the farm is concerned. And the farm will get the psychographic. Do you see these guys? If it's the Volkswagen, whatever of America people, when do you see them face-to-face? How often? When do you have conversations? That kind of thing. Because it can't just be mail or email or newsletters. There's got to be a conversation in it. But then here's the other one. Provide value. That we can do in spades here in terms of what's our value proposition. And part of it's just we have information we can send. Part of it's, just some of the 12 direct stuff that we have, the 33 touch stuff that we have that could be targeted to sellers or buyers or whatever. Become a community resource. So, what goes on in the community? What is going in over there? And what's it like to eat at Pie 5? I love it when Suzanne says, let's go to Pie 5. Because by God, I get my pizza the way I want it. Every time. That much, no, not that many green peppers, that many. I mean, so that's part of the community experience. And while you're there, you can just go to Dick's Sporting Goods behind it if you want to, or Target. Just know the community. I need a wood chipper. Okay, you got to go over here to Home Depot, get one. I don't know, forget how much it was a day, but more than I want to spend. But anyway, where do you get this stuff? What's the community? Become a community resource. Be present. Are you visible? Low competition. I guess I got to go with that and see what it means. New home development business. Because if you work in a new area, new home development, you're at the front of the line in terms of becoming the local real estate expert. Because you're there when the thing came out of the ground, you're there when it's sold. That relationship ought to be, whoever sold it, but you're traveling around, I think of Ward right now, and comes to mind. Driving around over here in Williamson Farms and other places, but that's one of the places that he frequents. He just is there, present. He can tell you who bought that house, who built that house, because he's been out there for years. He's been there at least 6 years while I've been here, every week, every day. And I think years before that, there's a great opportunity. Now, you can blow it too. You can never stay in touch with those people and just drive around with your car out there, and then they'll still maybe remember you some, but they think, well, there's that guy who drives a Chrysler. There's Ward. That's a different kind of level of relationship. So let me see. I know becoming a community resource, being present, that means face-to-face, low competition. An industry-wide focus on the internet as a business building mechanism has created an open door for agents looking to develop a farming strategy. As the industry becomes more infatuated with high-tech lead generation, the competition for prospect farms is decreasing. So people are going and depending on the internet and that kind of stuff and they're not farming. So the competition for prospect agents that get face-to-face with members of their farm experience a higher return on investment than those focused on the internet. So we've got them. Rick and I talked a little bit ago, about a target marketing strategy that's offered where people are doing demographic work. They're basically an online opportunity where they can say, in this area, this many people have lived there over 7 or 8 years. If you just talk to people that lived in their house for 8 or 9 years, you're talking to people that have the itch to move. High probability of them needing to move because they just because they've been there 9 or 10 years. The typical person moves every 10 years, median number of years is 10. So if you're just talking to people that have lived in their house for 10 years, you're talking to people that have an itch to move. Now they gotta like you, trust and respect you, but that's what I've said. We go back to our file cabinets and just pull out old files. Now, see, all of our files for about 3 or 4 years are stuck in a digital, in a cloud or on some thumb drive. But in the old days, we stuck it in a file. We just go back to the file and say, okay, how many orphans we got here? How many people retired, quit, left, whatever, that sold somebody a house 10 years ago? And should we touch base and say, listen, we thought we better touch base because it's about time for you to move. and if they've been there 10 years, there's a pretty good chance. They thought about it. Then people always ask, well, how long you live where you live, Don? About 14 years, yeah. No, I haven't thought about moving. I love this place. I just like to be able to keep it as I get older. So anyway, new development, that last one, new home development can develop a home sale into a lifelong relationship, becomes a resident expert and agent of choice for the neighborhood. And that's where you want to land. So anyway, that's that handout. And all right, you get my other stuff here. So that was the myth. Myth number 3. A farm limits you to that area of specialty. A farm does not have to be your only source of business, is maybe the truth of the matter. So if you're doing a farming thing, it's part of a variety of things. And like I said a while ago, Patty, when you have a farm area, which could be a demographic, it could be a psychographic group, people of certain interest, or a geographic thing. We relate it to geographic a lot of times. But in the area of a geographic farm, that also becomes your targeted for sale by owner work. It becomes your targeted expired work. And so if a for sale by owner comes up in those areas, you don't have the luxury of not contacting them. Maybe you don't contact one over here that you know about. But this one is not optional. You're going to show up, you're going to knock on the door and say, I'm the local real estate expert. I'm sure you recognize me. I mean, after about 12 months, that's what you ought to be able to say. I'm sure you recognize me, and I noticed you put in your house, we're temporarily in the same business. How's it going? And by the way, I didn't come to list your house. I just came to see where you might be going so I can maybe assist you with arrival in your destination. And if not, I'm a resource as you go. And by the way, I have I've got it out. That box over there. There it is. Let me get it. I have a residential marketing guide that I could drop off that might assist you as you endeavor to sell this property yourself. There's the script, basically. But no, you're farming. It just happens that a for sale owner popped up in your area. You better be ready for that.
And that's value.
And that's a value proposition. That is. And ultimately, I can say, I'm not going to list their house. I'm just going to see what the scenario is because I'm going to stay the expert in the area. Yeah, Kim.
Okay, when we went to Bold, at first we were told to do that to drop off. Is that the listing presentation basically saying, or that's just a guide saying, this is what you do to get your house ready for?
This is my original, by the way, but look through it. But that is basically, some guidance on how to be safe.
Right.
The various steps to marketing a piece of property. I mean, there's literally some valuable information on selling your house yourself. But it's also the job description for the realtor. So if you get hired, you read the book and you do the stuff. Meanwhile, if you didn't hire a realtor, this is your job.
Yeah.
And this is all the work you're getting ready to do that you apparently have not been rehearsing for. nor have you taken the 90-hour course to prepare yourself, nor have you come to my training. I haven't seen you in my class. You know, I mean, so, but anyway, I mean, you see what that has to do with it. It's just a thing. Sherry Lewis shared us that a couple of years ago at a For Sale My Owner class that she did for Seed Credit over at the Home Builders. And I grabbed a hold of that thing because ultimately all you need is something that you can just say, here, I'm coming from contribution. I didn't finish my story a while ago on the junk mail. But junk mail is just like I said, something you got from somebody that you don't know and you don't need it. But it's not junk mail as soon as they know you. It's just, oh, here's something from Kendall. I like Kendall. Now in the trash. But it's a, they don't need you yet. Nothing personal, they don't need you yet. They thought of you and said, I like Kendall. It comes back to that quote. Now, if you send something to somebody, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you call and say, hey, by the way, did you get that I sent you? I just want to make sure. It's an excuse to call somebody if you need excuses. But junk mail, now I recall I got some junk mail about 3 years ago, and I was talking and teaching on this, and I had just gone out to my patio about a week before, and I had a crack across it. It just cracked right down the middle. I have a big, nice, long patio, and I love being back there, but it bugged me to see a crack in it. And about a week after that, landing on my tabletop from the mailbox was a postcard from a guy that did concrete. Now, I didn't know this guy, but I needed a concrete guy. Not junk mail now, I kept that one. I said, I need to call this guy, get a bid. I got the number already. So that happens once in a while. But it's, you know, you got to catch the timing. I have had it happen where I'm working an area. Here's the other thing. If you're farming the area, every time a house goes on the market that you list, you're going to, by gosh, knock the doors. Here's the other thing. Even if you don't list the property, it wouldn't hurt for you to send something out to that community. Say, by the way, there's a new listing over here on whatever, 2nd Street. Thought you'd like to know. Somebody did that with me in my neighborhood. We put a house on the market over there, and then Keith Forney sent one out and announced my listing for me, which we did too. We sent one out, but she just sent one out as well.
Do you need permission, or as long as you put credit, like listing agent such and such, or do you need to get their permission?
It probably wouldn't hurt to get their permission to do it, but the Keith didn't with me. But she, you know, it's just a, because we don't have anything that I think that prohibits us from, I think we're supposed to get permission to advertise somebody else's listing. I believe that's actually in some of our rules. So in that case, it's probably prudent to basically say, hey, I'd like to promote your property. Is that all right with you? So find out. I mean, maybe that's something I need to get. I hate answering the question when I don't have the chapter and verse.
I think it's in the MLS on the IBX number. You set that one little yes or no box, and it sends it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
There's some other pros in here, maybe.
There's some other places, I think.
I'm looking for the correct name.
But I'm talking about if you're going to send out something like that.
So
But if you're just basically sending out a flyer that's got all the properties listed, here's all the actives, here's all the pendings, here's all the solds, and I'm just updating you in this neighborhood on generally what's for sale. And you may be down at the bottom of it indicate that this is data pulled from the local MLS. I think there's no hesitation in doing that. Because you can do that by email, and you can do it in print if you want to do it. So.
But it's time to explain when you're standing at their doorway. Because they're, what the heck is all this? Well, page 1 is this. Anyway, I scared this guy, and I didn't know he was 92. I thought he was maybe 7. But he was 92. And then he was like, what is this right here pending? Is that we
So he had a
10 minutes,
conversation with you.
and he still heard that thing, weed I was telling you about.
Here's the deal though, Rick, you were in the conversation.
Yeah.
You were at the free throw line.
Well, I
You
just
were in the game.
Yeah.
And has it sold yet?
No.
Yeah, you might be better off to be the second realtor.
Well, it'd be the 3rd.
Third, even better. Because if nobody's listening along that way, they might be listening by the third realtor. So I just keep an eye on it. But ultimately, if it's in an area you're calling a farm, it's your business. If you're not calling it a farm, it's your business, but it's not as much your business because you haven't identified it as a place to make sure it's a priority to you. And that's what this is about. Is it just another house, or is it an area that I'm concentrating on that I want to own the market share in at some point? So, all right, let's see here. Fourth, it's all about mailers and mass marketing. That's called a myth. Truth, it's the synergistic impact of both marketing and prospecting. So some of it in the prospecting part of it is the face-to-face, eye-to-eye, voice-to-voice. And the marketing is the rest of the, whatever you're sending out that goes with it, that works 24 hours a day, try to help you become recognizable. Fifth myth, you can stop and start your farming efforts. That's a myth. This is not a start and stop thing. Let's see what it says. You must pursue your farm consistently and persistently, and I actually state forever behind that.
Haven't we had people say they mailed for like 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, but if you never talk to anybody, you never knock on the door, then it's, the fruit of that is not going to be nearly the same as the relationship. And that's what it comes down. I just love to think about the junk mail dynamic. If you're just junk mail to them, then every time you send something to them, it's just junk mail. It's an annoyance, actually. We're annoyed by junk. But if we have something of value that we sent, and I use that illustration to you guys several times, Patty, where I've said, if I send you an envelope every month, and you don't know me, but I put $5 in it every time, how long before you call and insist that I unsubscribe you? All right, I'll drop it to $1. I send you $1 every month. How long before you call me and say, good God, can you stop sending me that? It doesn't take much value. But it goes from junk to not junk just because there's something of value in it. And that's where that newsletter that has value. Just knowing what the trends and the interest rates are. That newsletter tells us that every month. We don't have to sit around and wonder about it. We ought to look at it ourselves once in a while so we know. By the way, they're going up a little. We need to get the word out. Buyers, you know what? We now have discovered the bottom. It was 3 months ago. We are not at the bottom. That's how you know the bottom of the interest rates, because they're not at the bottom anymore. And we're now at 4.5, approaching that on 30-year fixed. And we bottomed out at 3 7/8 or something here 6 months a year ago. So anyway, all right. I got to keep my eye on it because I got to give you guys breaks. I can go the whole time, but you guys got to have a break. Niche within a niche. All right, let's take a look here. Geographic farm. 10 factors to consider. What are your goals? If you have a certain price range that you've got to hit on average, and for God's sake, don't choose a farm that doesn't have that price range house in it. So the price range. Your budget. What have you got to work with? There probably is going to be some stamps involved and some postcards. How big is this thing going to be? That's why we're saying 200 to 300 to start. The 200 doesn't give you much return, but it lets you build the strategy and the machinery so that you've got stuff set up. Because if you're set up to service 200, you can move it to 300 with very much, just flip of a switch or two. Maybe a slight adjustment in investment. But ultimately the machinery, location, like I said, on the way to where you go. So that you don't have to drive 5 miles out of the way to get to it because you won't do it. Haven't mets versus mets. How many of that area haven't you met yet? We need a sizable number of haven't mets. If everybody knows you in the area, you ought to be the resident expert already. But, we need to meet a few more. What's your average sales price? What's the turnover rate, Rick? What did I say the range ought to be in turnover annually?
10%, but the book showed 7%.
Yeah, oh, that's good, that's good. Hey, Midwest City, Sean, did you hear that? Rick remembered it. 7 to 10% was the turnover rate, and he quoted exactly what it said. It's been 15 or 20 minutes already. That's the mark of a heck of a teacher. You can remember something longer than 5 minutes.
I even wrote down a quote where it came from in the book.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're gonna farm, you need to know this stuff. Market conditions, competition. What was that number? What percentage, if you're up against a realtor that's getting, that's already established themselves in the area, what percentage was it where we'd say beyond this percentage, maybe we should reconsider the area? Remember that number?
30%.
30?
30%, then only a third of that would be actually a thing.
30%. If they've got a third of all the business that happened, every listing that sold in that area the last 12 months, and they had a third of them or more, that is not an indication not to go in there and work it. But it is a conversation now about what's the value proposition I can bring versus them, and how long will it take me to become the preferred agent over somebody that maybe has a 10-year track record already in there established. But that number, competition is, 30%. If they've got 30% or more of that stuff, then, let's look and see. Is there a neighborhood next to it that doesn't have anybody that's dominant? There's nobody, one agent hadn't sold 2 houses in this area in a year and years. That's an area that has nobody working it. But there could be somebody, and I mean, we're one of them over in our area where we're the HOA president. We've been on committees for 14 years. We've been pulling the weeds at the front and changing the light bulbs for years. And we've had listings that came in and sold every single house we ever listed over in there for years. And yet we had people last year that came in and listed properties and we didn't get them all. Some years we had gotten them all. But last year wasn't one of them, and we had the year before that our best year. So it's ironic. We had sold virtually everything the year before, 3 or 4 properties at 300,000 average, and then next year 1 or 2, I guess it was 2. And but there were 4 other people that had friends and relatives in real estate. A couple of them, one of them in particular, called and said, "Don, we're going to be listing our house, but I'm sorry to say we can't use you because I've got an in-law, soon-to-be in-law, that's coming into the family, and she's in real estate over your competition. But we sure love you guys. You know the house. You sure love to have you sell it." But that's neat when they call you and apologize because they're not using you to list a house. It's a very, very, but they referred us people. That family never moved, but they referred us people prior to that, 2 or 3 along the way. And just a neighbor. We got to know them pretty well because their number's the same as ours, except theirs is north and ours is south. So you get acquainted. You think, "Oh, that stupid mailman." He's like, "Thank you very much." We're going to be close to each other now because we're going to be trading mail back and forth.
What was your average turnover rate?
In that area, 76 community, and about 5 a year is what turns over in there. So it's not quite 10%.
How many days on market?
I don't know offhand.
Okay.
Our days on the market probably 60 in that range,
Okay.
generally.
You said 76 houses over there?
76 families, yeah. And they're all built out, finally, so there's no other lots. Your fit for the farm. I don't know exactly, the details of that. I can look up on here, but ultimately, you're comfortable with these people. I can relate to the days when I first started out, and I am comfortable in my $32,000 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 2-car garage, brick house, and more. And anybody in the neighborhood with a 3-bed, 1.5, 2-car garage that wasn't too big, I could relate to them, be very comfortable, talk to them easily. But if we got into that $200,000 range, probably 100. In 1978, if I'm talking to somebody at $100,000, oh my God, these guys got a mansion. I'm just in amazement. I don't know if I'm qualified to deal with this. I found out they just put their pants on exactly the same way as I was. Eventually, And now that $30,000 house is 120. So maybe you just live long enough and it turns into that anyway. But I mean,
If it doesn't get blown down, it will sell for.
that's right. But we decided at one point, we do want to raise our price range. Consciously, we need to raise our average sales price. We're happy with the number of units, but we could make a little more money if we just sell a little higher price range units. So we focused on that a lot, and we did raise it to the point where our doggone termite guy did not refer us stuff that he wanted to buy a HUD house. He didn't call us. We did 40 houses a year. He'd come out and do the inspection on and treat a third of them. And we're feeding his family. And he tells us every time we met him at the termite inspection, well, I bought another HUD house over here. Finally, here's how slow I am. 3 years, I finally said, is there any particular reason why you're not using us for those? Oh, you guys, you handle a lot bigger. Well, these are only $60,000, $70,000 properties. You guys are handling stuff, way above that. I see you, I work them, I know what you're listening. And I said, well, yeah, but you're paying cash. It's a one-page HUD piece of paper that I do online, and if you get the bid, it's not much work after that. Here's what I'd like. Just give us a couple a year. The other guy, whoever you're using, must be doing a pretty good job and keep using them. But give us 1 or 2 a year. We'd be happy to take them because, it's no work involved. Your cash, no fixing, no inspections, nothing. And we got them all after that. But it took me 3 years to finally get around to tell him, we'll take it. That's why I wouldn't do it. You guys don't handle that price range. That's way beneath you. Now we're only averaging 200. So it wasn't that big a price ranges, but I mean, he knew enough about what we had in inventories because he was out there doing the inspections on it, making those assumptions. It's crazy. All right. A couple more minutes here. Select your goals, market share, gross closed income, number of closed units you want to make, how much time and money have you got to work with. So anyway, size of the geographic farm. Start small, grow to adjacent streets or neighborhoods. So that's the thing, I'm just saying 200 to 300 is plenty big enough to handle. Because if you're going to knock on those once a year, how many, there's a calculation in some of this later. I'll probably in the second half, I'll flip to this other document instead of pulling the PowerPoint stuff up, but you can see some of those pages in some of this farming stuff that comes out, by the way, 3612.3. That material is kind of what I've rooted this information in. It's just it's a good Keller Williams course. Adjacent streets and so on. Is it expandable? If you got 300, is it expandable? If you wanted to go to 5. That kind of a dynamic is part of what you need to consider, I think, in terms of this particular location versus some other location. And so, and the other part of it is, what we talked about earlier, just is there a move up area to this and is there a move up area for them? Where you got 3 layers here of price points where they typically are moving up. This figure I've thrown out a few
Like
times.
Williamson Farms, they got the little ones, they got the medium, they got the big.
They got all of them.
So if they like the neighborhood, they're gonna stay, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because they stay in the area. They just move up or down.
Well, it depends on if they live where the airplanes fly over every day, and then they're gonna move.
Honey, you can wave at those people, they wave back.
Yeah.
They are low.
There's a whole bunch, there's 700 properties over there, Rick, and there's virtually all of them, somebody's got somebody living in, so they're not caring much about the airplanes.
Yeah, or we wouldn't sold the one we had over there.
Yeah, that's where you move from.
So if you get into a neighborhood that is still building, you should maybe start farming the older area because that would be the ones that are gonna move out quicker.
Yeah, just the idea of turnover happens at around 10 years on average, or the median number. That is where you focus, I would, versus they've been there a year. Because the odds, there are some that move in a year, but it's 2 problems, very rare, and number 2, they don't have any equity.
Yeah.
So now you're fighting the battle with getting them out of it, bringing money to closing, versus this guy that's got equity built now because he's been along with it. Yeah, Rick?
When you're picking a farm, though, what if you're picking a farm that's the ultra end, like the 1 to 1.5 million? They're not gonna turn over as much, but, I mean, I scared poor Steve Owens because he had flat on his Mercedes, and I was on my way back from the farm in my F-350, and I pulled over and helped him change a tire. But he's in that farm area that I'm at, and he's at 1.2 on his house, and we talked about it, but, you know,
The turnover on 1.2s is much slower.
it's real slow, but they buy investments. I mean,
Here's the deal. If you can live on one or two a year turning over, you can't stay, that cannot be your only, the eggs in that basket cannot be the only one because there's not enough turnover. And the reason is there's not enough population of people that can buy it. So your 300s, 2 to 3s, you got buyers for them year round because they're families with 2 average incomes can afford it as compared to somebody that's got to make, 250, 300,000 a year. So I just think it comes down to that. What is the turnover? And if they're turning over, then there's buyers. If they're not turning over, then there aren't buyers, there are properties. And so it's nice to have that. We've got one over here. It's nice to have those, but you're looking for the needle in the haystack rather than the needles. And so it comes down to this fundamental marketing thing, is that if you're marketing whatever you have to a majority of people because they can afford it and want it, you're going to sell it. But if you have something that is not what the majority of people want or need or can afford, you're going to hold it until you find that one person or two or that small demographic that can't even afford it, much less want it. There's the problem. When you get into the bigger tickets, they're very picky because they can be. They don't have to just settle at $1 million. They can have anything they want, include create it if they need to. So that's the challenge in that market is enough national exposure to where we are pulling from a demographic that's way bigger than the state provides or the city provides to find that person. Otherwise, it's a long haul. If the folks in California and other places that own average house is $1 million out there, when they own those and move here, they're a prospect for ours.
so if you're like passively marketing to that farm, I mean, just kind of, I talk to them here and there, and I'm over there talking here and there, so I don't really send them anything. But, that one house we had that expired, the big one, and funny story on that, the Keller Williams guy that sold that house, I told him how much he would sell for when he listed it, and on the TRR, the guy that bought it, he called me and said, you need to talk to my Keller Williams guy, because I can't figure out what he's saying on this TRR thing and how to explain it. So I called him and get permission to be involved with it.
So the seller called you and said, hey, can you explain
The
this?
seller and the buyer. I mean, the seller and the buyer.
So I don't know how you read it. They expired. You weren't in the conversation anymore.
Well, a year and a half, I had that buyer for a year and a half on the buyer's agreement. 47 days before his daughter married real estate guy. Guess who got it?
Yeah. So if you're not in the mix anymore, you're out.
Yeah.
But you sold it.
Well,
You just didn't get paid.
They just
You
wanted,
were the resident expert.
yeah, but it's cool to be the expert, well, you need to call Rick, and the guy from Keller Williams, don't say his name, but he got the deal, he had to drop his commission to get the deal done. But he said, well, this is weird, but the buyer knows you and said to call you, and the seller knows you, and he said to call you. So, but I just been in.
say, I expect 2 referrals out of each
I
of you.
need 25% for that agent.
Yeah,
Well, but anyway,
I didn't,
the
I
point
just-
is the bigger ticket stuff is more of a challenge to market. And because you just have a small percentage of population that can actually buy it if they wanted it.
yeah, you'll
And they
start
are
with that
picky
way.
people, most of them, they're not settling at that level. They're not having to settle for something. Whereas our others, 200s and 300s and 150s, and they are settling for the best they can find. Because that's what the best is, the best. But it maybe isn't everything they wanted. We get 5 must-haves, we feel fortunate. And then a couple of nice-to-haves, that's still settling because that's all there is to some degree. But anyway, all right, it's break time. We're gonna take about 10, so let's make it 50, 12, 25 till. We'll kick her off again, wind her up.
I like your shirt.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite color.
Oh my gosh, I hardly ever wear this, but I saw this tie this morning, and I said, boy, that tie goes with that shirt.
Yeah.
I think I can make something.
That's,
You're good at
that's
those shirts.
Easter Patrick Day.
Yes.
People wear them on both
I
days.
might have, that's the last time I think I wore this shirt last Easter. So, took it clean and hung it up and never worn it again, then I saw this tie this morning, and that's what reminded me of this shirt.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Patty. Well,
This is great that they're doing that online.
well, I appreciate it, because you can, and that link,
You're just working smarter.
well, I can't be two places, one that I can kind of be.
And they can't get it here.
No, they won't come up there because it's long distance. But, hey, you guys in Shawnee and Midwest City, if you're watching, we're on break until 25 till. We'll be back, but we'll let the camera roll. You can listen in during the break. Anyway, I appreciate it because you, on my Thursday stuff, can't make it or haven't been able to, but you can click on that link that I sent and just open it up during that timeline if you're somewhere else where you can listen to it. Plus, you can go watch the other ones that have been
So
recorded.
you're gonna do
Is that a
Thursday.
mobile deal too? I can
Pardon
do that
me?
on my mobile?
Yeah.
Because
It's
last
a
Thursday, I
YouTube
couldn't.
account.
Last Thursday, I couldn't.
Yeah, it's recording them and storing them, and I don't know how long it's storing or whatever, but it's a
Oh, yeah,
code
just
reading out.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
right.
a YouTube account, just that Janae set up. And if you click on that link that I sent in that email yesterday, that will open up to the page, and there they are, where you can listen to anything I've recorded. We're getting a little better now at it. The first week or two, I was just thrilled that anything came across on the screen. What they're doing in Shawnee and Midwest City is they go to their smart TV, and they find the YouTube channel, just click on that, and if we're on live like
So
this,
they just
it
feel
just comes on,
showing.
and they can hear it and see what it was going on.
I'm gonna hang it.
I like it.
It's gotta have me next to it. That says
Right.
CLA
Thank you.
250.
It's super good.
You've been in Noble a lot?
No, no,
Really? 21,000 miles. But I mean, I told her.
no. Really want anything else in
I
there, again.
We only
This
get
is
one.
that's what
That's it.
you said really don't want to.
So that's her, you know, I took her out there to take pictures next to it, so she was.
I've never,
You got a letter set in string.
nobody was coming to this house.
You know,
Those off.
And then finally,
so, I told her, man, I'm gonna get a check or something.
you know, I checked the,
One over here.
prospect list, and I opened it up one day, and there was a heart in there. Oh my gosh, there's a realtor there, somebody that loves this property.
The
And
building.
that's actually the people that
That's
bought
why
it.
I was here today, to kind
So,
of see what we need to do. Sure.
Well, I knew you guys.
There's just no rhyme or reason, really.
God,
I mean,
Well, that's more of a gardening.
Until
I've said
buyer's
everything,
ready,
and
you're
it's like,
coming out the
when
house.
you make the references to like
No,
the
I
trailer and the warehouse.
way in Lexington, and I'm getting ready to list the house, you can't enter it.
Big houses.
It's the long pocket.
I have a pair of mine in Lexington, who's- that's a long drive.
Well, it's not so much for me, because I live in there for
Yeah.
But it's like, your prospective buyers are very limited out there as
Well,
well.
but it's better than like,
She got
So we were blessed when we got down the road that he saw our sign on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw your sign, yeah, one you sold over there on Harold.
buyers.
Buyers, yeah. Keep them
Well,
out.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't say you know it expired.
535,
Yeah, but it did sell, and somebody moved into it, and you got the credit for it.
No.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Let's see here. I'm gonna get that.
all of my closings that I thought were gonna end in March are actually pushing back into April. Although my two big ones are probably.
Yeah, I had a probate that we're gonna have to wait till the 4th instead of the 30th.
I'm not complaining.
It's just because he said, you sell my house before Valentine's Day, so I did, and now we were just like 3 days ahead of the numbers, so we have to slow down.
The other thing, Donna, is I was gonna ask you that Cheryl, this was Cheryl's question. How can we have the other agent that we're not there? Of course,
This is
Cheryl
working
has
out
to
to be a
research.
nice little place.
You know, so.
The other agent
But
that
he
sold that
used-
house.
he leveraged his 54 success. his office.
Yeah.
Which is offset 54 sales.
Yeah.
So I just, I don't know how to, I gotta learn how to word that, how to do it on our Facebook page, because I don't want to claim all of it. I thought about it every time somebody has a new listing in our office. Clicking on that Facebook business page, say, hey, we got another one over here, such and such. We just sold this one over here.
But we could, in our office, we have the marketing anything we have in here.
See, in that way, I don't know. It looks like we're just busy as all get out, but we're promoting other people's.
Well, that's what we need.
So,
It's as much exposure as we can get.
I have all 3 posts on our business page. Just killing it on that Facebook thing. Just kidding. I have no clue. My 17-year-old son did that. He's my IT guy.
Is that right? Well,
I told him, I said, Jared,
you
you can charge people $25 a month and do 3 posts a week for their business pages and boost them and everything. You can have 300 customers paying you $25 a month.
Tell me how you doing.
He's trying to figure it out, but I'm not saying.
You wore your high shoes, but you kind of casual down the road today.
Yeah.
If you want to try something, your parents will support you.
People believe you and so.
Indeed.
This
Yeah,
is kind
why not?
So
transitional
he's trying to
letters, you know?
Yes.
So,
when I say
Yes,
that,
you know,
the coach sends us videos.
gotta do
I watch the
meetings.
coach videos. And
Got to.
he'll say something about Facebook. Jared right there.
No,
Really?
Really?
Really? I didn't know I could do that. Are you sure you can do that? I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Well,
The coach, he's in Children's Marketing coach. He's pretty funny. He's like, tells me about the mother-in-law screw ups all the time. He doesn't dress up the colorful language. He lets it fly. I'm like, okay, whatever. But he was saying the other day, he said that the only thing about Facebook you gotta be careful is if your post or your blog post or whatever, if people have attention span that's less than a goldfish. A goldfish has a 9-second attention span. A person on Facebook has an 8-second attention span. And I don't mean that bad, but whatever you post, if you don't got them in the first 8 seconds, they're gone. They blink their eye. No.
well, that's interesting. The goldfish has got a longer.
Yeah, they said that. Who was it? It's a British lady. She does a lot of YouTube videos and stuff, but I heard her voice in the background while the coach was talking, and Cheryl was researching and found the girl that he was listening to. So I was like, Cheryl's just, she's a handful.
She is. Well, let me see here.
I did get a door slammed on my face the other day.
Well, now you're in real estate. Fine.
I went up there, and I walked up to it, it was like over in Nichols Hills. There's a $1.9 million expired on 6 months ago, and so I went over there to get my little information page, and I walked up there. I drove Cheryl's car, her big silver gold color one. I whipped up in there, knocked on the door, and I went up to the door. No, we don't want it. It's like, no more real estate people, sorry. And then I was like, okay. So I went, took my tie off. The next day I said, I'm going back. Cheryl goes, you already had the door slammed in your face. What are you going back for? You're going to get shot at. I'm like, no. So I went back there and I took the Mustang up there. Had a shiny old Mustang. Drove up there with the Mustang. No tie. Just went up there and I didn't have my blazer on. And walked up to the door. And knocked on the door and I just kind of stepped back and I was looking off in the yard. Just looking around. No, it's the total opposite of what I did the day before. She took it in, she went over and we talked about the guarantee. We spent 15 minutes talking and she kept on my paperwork.
Really?
So, yeah, so I told her I'm not driving your car. Taking a Mustang.
Well, yeah, you've got some research in now.
So, but it was weird though because it was the same lady, same person, same time of day, within 24 hours. And she didn't even put 2 and 2 together with me. I guess 20 other real estate agents came the day before. So,
Well,
but nothing's become of it yet. But I did that. What's that one thing he told me? The command deal on the email. You talked about a long time ago. Don't just ask for email. Just say, what is it? Or I need your email. And I fired it off just like it was nothing big to that sheet. Oh, yeah, such and such, blah, blah, blah. Didn't even hesitate. I commanded it instead of asked for
Well,
it. It was fun though.
you just tell them to do it.
Yeah, I just told her, I need,
With this.
now if it becomes a thing, we'll never know. Actually, I'll let you know, I'll be bragging about that.
Well, I'm trying to send this email to Midwest City. They're asking for PowerPoint pages.
Oh.
Let's see if I can get that
Well, yeah, they need those.
to send it up.
Can I make a copy of that or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I laid it out here, because I thought you might, that's something that Ignite and other, for some of my own classes I use. I keep it handy with me all the time, so you can.
Okay.
Jordan Nicole has another good
Desktop.
Hey, does this work the same as copier or?
Should, yes.
Okay.
All right, let's see now if I can do this.
Can I have an extra one of these blank?
By all means, there should be
Because
plenty
I
out
don't want
there.
my scribble on one of them.
By all means. What's this in? New email. Bonnie. Erwin. Farming. Power. Here you go. And insert attached. Where is it? I'm trying to find, well, actually, it's, what is it called? Company. CE class, I can't find it because I can't. CE class, insert, attach, desktop, CE, where is it? There it is. I can't find the file I'm looking for, because I'm there, if I don't know what it's called. Send. All right, Bonnie, I sent you the CE PowerPoint file just now. And now, back to this one right here. Row, text. And so Leslie's popped in. Did you get the little sheet over here?
No.
I mean, this gives you a couple of them just for your benefit. Let's see. Okay. Appreciate you coming. So we gotta get Kendall back. Yep. I think it's the timeline I said we talked about. We're starting to back up again, second half. And Bonnie, I'm glad to know you're watching. Yep. Says you're still on. So let's. Lost the screen. Searching.
Is it time for a new computer?
No, computer seems to be okay. Connection ought to, should be grabbing right about there. I don't know why this time. Computer acting like it would. One more. There. Okay, there it is. I got it. This time, this piece I'm gonna run it from the course. But you can keep an eye on your PowerPoint pages there. Let's see. What page would it be?
23.
23?
Page 8 of our handout, but 23 on your slide.
Yeah. I've got it marked on mine, so I kind of know where we are. But these hands of mine are so dry, I guess. Page.
Come on, page 8. Full page number 5.
Page 23.
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
So we got page 5.
I was thinking too.
Slide 20.
Slide 23.
Slide 20.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Page five.
If you see a 23, I'm looking all over that.
Not bad.
Page 5 there, about,
Slide 20.
and slide 23 if you're right. All right. Let's just take a look. I'll do the second half with this piece of paper, which is basically this. And so, did you get a copy of that, Ron?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And it's all right back there where,
Yeah.
thank you, Kendall. I like things back where I found it. When you show a house, that's what I like for us
Yeah.
to do. So, by all means, jump right up there, Rob, and take a picture.
Thank you.
Location of the farm, accessibility for you. I've said it several times, but you don't have a copy of this.
Oh.
Just the page there, which is about page 5,
It's page 8 and slide 23.
Yes.
page 8 on your stuff.
8. Slide 23.
I see.
Bottom one on page 8.
Yes.
Mine says selecting your farm. at the bottom.
Say it right.
Yeah, you're there.
I didn't think we were that far ahead, but anyway, just write wherever a thing is that, one key to building a great geographic farm is select an area that is easy for you to get to on a regular basis. That's what I've said. If you're going to, create a farm area, don't make it 10 miles out of the way for you to get to it. Or 5, maybe a couple. But at the end of the day, will you just, would you drive by there every day if you chose that location to farm? And would that be inconvenient? Because if it's very inconvenient, probably aren't going to do it. But you need to do it because you need to see it virtually every day. Thank you, Bonnie. Got your message. You're welcome. When the folks in Midwest City need PowerPoint pages and it's break time, we can get them to them. Now, you don't want to choose a farm area a great distance away. You need to be driving through your farm area. It says area daily or at least weekly. Just, that's the deal. To check for sale dollars and competition and to be visible to residents. So, expires. If expires come up, you need to be, able to just pop by there and just say, I noticed your property was on the market. It's popped off. I'm the local real estate expert, as you know, and I just wanted to check and see if you're still moving. But be able to drive by. It's hard to get the dadgum phone number. Easiest way to get the phone number is call a realtor that it expired and don't ask them for it. They haven't. That's not all necessarily easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the deal. From time to time, it might be that you call and say, I don't know, are you planning on relisting that house? I'll be happy to pay a referral fee if you're wore out by it. And by the way, you can coach me a little bit on what your experience has been and see if I belong here or not. But if you're not going to relist it, I'd be willing to pay you a referral fee as opposed to you just let it expire and let anybody else list it and, not pay you a dime for all what you've already done. Because your research up to now to find out what it took not to sell it is valuable to me now. And I'll use that to help them make a better decision. And maybe they wouldn't listen to you. Maybe they'll listen to somebody else, a different voice. But at the end of the day, I benefit from your input and I'm happy to pay you the referral fee. So it's just a thought. Nobody ever thinks like that, but it's a possibility. You know, I wouldn't call it, you know, I don't want to offend somebody. I'm just saying, if you're not going to relist a thing and you're just going to let it go where they get 15, 20 little letters from somebody else if they still need to move, why not get a referral fee from somebody else to just waste it? Existing geographic boundaries, consider existing areas. For example, consider the geographic boundary of a larger master plan community. Do lakes or rivers bound in the perfect area for a farm? Think of how the map and building define parts of towns and neighborhoods. So, you know, what's a common life experience? Kind of home. Is it starter home? Is it luxury home? What, you know, what kind of a house is it? Desirability. Is your farm a place where people desire to relocate? I mean, that'd be high. I would just, you know, is this a desirable area to live in? And that's a fair question. Because you do have some areas. I mean, I can think of an area or two not far from here where there's a little bit of a stigma, perception that cheap built, dated, aging. You know, that stigma goes with it. So if you're the local expert, you have to overcome those dynamics. You don't need to choose that. Deal with it when it falls in your lap, but don't go choose it. And so, anyway, a number of haven't met. Basically, I mean, is this an area where there are people that haven't met you yet? Now, average sales price. When you choose a set a goal, and that's what is implied here, that around the first of the year or maybe November, you sat down with yourself. And our Ignite classes, I think, basically say we should spend 1 to 3 days a year planning the year. We should probably spend at least 1 day a month reviewing the month. And we probably ought to spend 1 to 3 hours a week reviewing the week in terms of our goals. Are we ahead, behind? Talked to Kobe yesterday over in Midwest City. I'm behind on. I'm shooting for 100, but I think I'm going to hit 80. I said, okay. Well, we'll do the best we can. Let's see if we can still get 100. But 80 isn't bad. But you need to adjust your appointment track and see what else you got going on, see what kind of help you're going to need, whatever. But 80, nobody's going to sneeze at that. And I admired 100. That was a good goal to shoot for. We need examples in your office to prove that in your office 100 can be done. Because as soon as 100 gets done, somebody else will make a run at it. Jim Ryan, Roger Bannister, you know, those stories. Nobody could hit a 4-minute mile until one of them did, and then everybody could. And the only reason was because they just believed they could now. And the day before they didn't. So we need that. Turnover rate. That we talked about. But let's take a look at this one, Rick. You're the expert in the room on this so far.
Okay.
Yeah. Turnover rate for an area is the number of homes sold in 1 year divided by the total number of homes in the area. So how many sold divided by the total in the area. And the national average is 4%. It's recommended you target geographic farm with at least 10% turnover. So that's saying a national average. I don't know that that's still true, but I do think that the idea of 10% turnover minimum is realistic. 200 is 20. So if you need 20 sales a year and you have 200 and there's 20 a year turnover in your area because it is 10%, is there anything else you should be doing besides just that open house? Because you're gambling that you're going to get all of them. And they might have a soon-to-be daughter-in-law coming. And they might even call you, Rick, and say, hey, I'd love to live with you, but I got to use my daughter-in-law. I want to keep peace in the family. So then now you're down to 19. You know, that's that dynamic. So what percentage of the 10% do you expect to get for yourself? You know, and that varies, but 30 to 50% probably is pretty optimistic. 50 is optimistic. 30 is probably realistic. So a third of the 20. 7. So, now, how many cells you need? Well, I need whatever it is, so I mean, we need some more than this going on, but this could become the stable, the bread and butter of your business, this particular area that basically has turnover every year, and as you go, the bigger percentage of it you get is because you're now the resident expert. You actually are not having to say, you may not recognize me anymore. They just know you, oh, here comes the realtor. All right, but that's the thing, 10%, there's the math. So here they're saying, if you're going to get 25% market share, there's the number. 5 listings out of 20 a year, so 25%. So that's the number. That's why I'm saying 30% is pretty optimistic. 50%, you've been there a while. If you're getting half of everything, you're established. But you could, if you're established, get 50, because the relationships that the other people have are, most people are not getting consistent marketing to remember who sold them their house. That's the good news. It's bad news too if we're not doing it, but it's the good news. So anyway, that's that dynamic. Then, length of time in the previous home. Now, what is it? Let's see. What did I say 5 times already in terms of the number of years a person, the median number of years a person lives in that area? 10 years.
Yeah, so 8 to 9 years it starts about.
8 to 9 is the beginning of the process of thinking. They're showing up at open houses. They don't know why. And they're just, stuff like that.
Actually, I know, I saw that.
So knowing how long homeowners are likely to own their home currently can be an enormous thing. So you can do, you can go back 5 years in the MLS and just see, who moved, and you could look, how long did they tend to live there? And the newer neighborhoods, it's surprising how much traffic there or turnover there is in brand new neighborhoods. They don't stay, they don't stay long. You'd think, my God, this is a brand new house. You just built it, customize it. You'd live there for 10, 15 years when here they are moving in 2. So it's more common than you would imagine. And the only reason I know that is I moved into some newer areas in my life, and I went, why are you moving? Well, because we have to. We didn't plan on, when we built this, we didn't plan on moving. But then life's developed, employment opportunities and so on, now we're moving. And so it's not as if no one moves in the first 2 years, but.
Oil, gas, military, and divorces.
Absolutely. All the same reasons that everybody's moving for is people being born, people passing away, people getting jobs, people losing their jobs, so. National average 12 years is what it was when this was written. It's 10 now. In fact, I always like to validate. Just happen to have the vision speech number up. But that figure right there, so 3% of the population moved in 1 year or less in 16. That's the last numbers I got. Gary has not done my 17 yet. I'm waiting in case anybody's watching. 2 to 3 years, 10%. 11%, 4 to 5, 12, 6 to 7, 15% of them move from 8 to 10 years, 11 to 15 is 21% of it, but the median number, the middle number of that is 10. So that's the number we're using, but that's the reality of it. The reality, what's the biggest number? 21. 11 to 15 years, that's me. I've been here 14. And so that's worth knowing, because as you're having a conversation, it is so easy to say, by the way, how long have you lived there? Where do you live? Everybody wants, where do you live? That's an easy question. And by gosh, you better find out how long have you been there?
Those are great open house questions.
They are. And anywhere. I'm going to the birthday party. Oh, this is a lovely home. How long have you lived here? I'm sneaky.
The last open house we did, I left RPR up on the tablet, and it had the area. Sure, we'll picture address right here. They're like, holy cow, I have my
You
mortgage
don't
and
even
everything.
have to ask, how old the house is. I mean, you can tell how long somebody's been there almost.
Sometimes you can. But that is, I used to love, I still do it. Frank's grinning back here because he knows about what I'm just about to say. Because if they say anything over 10, I'm gonna say, you screwed up the national average. It's a good thing I got to do what I did. I mean, I've said it over and over. But I mean, we have fun, they laugh, they do the same thing. But they will invariably say, we have been thinking about moving maybe. We need a little bigger, need a little little smaller, a little less to make, whatever. They start, all of a sudden the conversation takes off from there. And they haven't planned it, they just have kind of thought about it. Well, if you sat down and thought about it around that breakfast table, that's the seed. And I'm here to, you got the itch. You got the itch, and I'm here to water that, or I'm here to scratch it. Whichever, because every time I get an itch, if I scratch it, it seems like it itches more. And so I'm here to scratch it. But we do have what they call itch cycles. You're about ready to buy a car, Rick. It could be that if I looked back at your history since you've been able to buy cars, I might be able to find a pattern. Every so many years, I wear one out or I get tired of it or something.
Or you have a collection of 5 or 6 of them sitting around.
Now, yeah, or you have a fetish for them where they just
I wouldn't say fetish.
I gotta have, but anyway, there's patterns and people in houses, that's why that number's 10. There is an itch cycle where people basically just get tired of what they had or wear it out enough that they want to. That's why when we list them, we're dealing with deferred maintenance crap all the time. You know why? Because they're tired of looking at it and they want to move and they want to hand it off to somebody else. So then we put it on the market, we sell it, the repair guy comes along, makes his thing, we turn it into a new house. They don't sell the one that has deferred maintenance stuff. They sell the one that they fixed up that they didn't live in. Kind of, because when the repair, the TRR comes and all of a sudden that will turn it into a different house. We're not changing the sales price, but we're not selling the house they looked at. It's a house with all these new upgrades. I'm exaggerating a little bit, not much, because that is kind of what's happening. So anyway, turnover will vary greatly on a local level depending on the number of factors. For example, starter home communities will most likely have a higher turnover rate than luxury home neighborhoods. Those are just the facts. And so a neighborhood where the median tenure was approaching more than 12 years or more will likely take longer to produce comparable activity. Use the MLS past sales information to go back 5 years to see if turnover is consistent. So in the turnover world, it's not what was the turnover last year? It's the turnover for the last 5 to see if there's consistency in that number, or was last year an aberration? Nothing sold last year, but previous 4 years there were consistently whatever, a certain number. So in that market study world, so on. Now these are the where they got that. The same thing I showed you on the 16 vision speech. This is the numbers that they had in the year this was done, which is several years before that. It's not so different. The difference is the median was 10 now and not 12. But there was a section of time. Now, when we had the market downturn of 7 and 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12, those years, this was done during those years. And so we had a period of time where they were staying longer, mainly because they couldn't move. I'm upside down, or I don't have any equity or whatever, and that's why that number went up 10.
Well, and it's still local, because if you lost how many houses in tornadoes, there was,
Well, yeah, it's
so that does match your numbers, like you said before.
it affects them. All right, let's see here. Other market conditions. MLS research generally says activity days in the market, inventory, home prices, all keep track of listings and expired listings. So those stats, we did that this morning with our 5 million and up focus group. Basically, they're saying, well, so I just pulled up the overall area on the MLS stats. Do you guys know where to find those, by the way? Yeah, Frank does. Kendall? Leslie, you might not. Hang on. I got to see if I can.
For
right
one
there.
tab on the MLS?
That's right. Well, let's just take a look because supply and demand is a factor here. And so we ought to look at this a little bit under the heading of market study on the subject of farming. Let's log in. Let's try to remember our past. Thank goodness they don't change the password every time you turn around because I'd be in trouble. I know, I've read this sometimes. Close. Right here, market stats.
Okay.
This particular tab came around last year about this time. And it's got a ton of great information, but I like just to go to the fast stats just real quickly to get some sense of supply and demand. So fast stats and the map loads, and you can get down here the entire MLS right here. Just to get an overview of the whole metro area and then some. So I click on the entire MLS map, and then all of a sudden this beautiful thing comes up. And it says, because that was our question this morning. Grant sat right there this morning, Rick, and said, how are you guys' pendings in February? Up, down, sideways, what direction? And he said, Frank's saying up, and a couple of the others said up, and Grant's saying, I don't know if we were up. But I said, well, Grant, here, February, pending sales a year ago, 1,869, this year, 2,122. So if you're not up about 13%, you're behind the pace of the market in the overall area. But then, yeah, he says, yeah, but most of our stuff's in 73160, 170 in that territory. I said, oh, well, that's different. That's different. Let me just punch it in. 731, well, better yet, let me just go to Mid-Dale Moore. And that's 73, all these areas in South Oklahoma City. Actually, that's Mid-Dale. I don't want that. 73170 is not in this list.
It's not.
But I can find it here. Go to Cleveland County and just pick one of these more. It'll give me both. So in Moore, which is 73160, 73170, which is Southwest Oklahoma City, where we're sitting too, it's up 16.7%. That's similar. Pendings. Closed sale. 20 more units closed in February than did a year ago. Congratulations, Leslie. A good time to get in real estate. Really, sometimes my best works by accident too.
Somebody took mine.
But I mean, for the year, up 20%. So I mean, these numbers basically give us some sense of here, demand. In February, demand was 98 buyers closed. The inventory, 249. So we shrunk the inventory by a number of units while raising the demand at the same time. And so our median sales price, if you'll notice, the net effect of that could be this. The average is about flat, but the median went up a little. So if you've got this shift of supply and demand, that's what ought to happen. If you have a low supply, high demand, prices ought to increase, just organically increase. Nobody's forcing it, it's just that people will pay more because there's the lack of choices and the number of people fighting over them. So anyway, but when you look at this right here, look here. Patty, 73160, 73170, and 2.3 months supply.
Thank you, Jesus.
I mean, if you got listings, you're selling them. I can vouch for that, except for the 1.3 so far. We had that conversation already. The $1.3 million one, they've got a fewer buyers than buy them, but everything else that we've been listing for even up to 400 has turned. It didn't turn last fall, but it turned in February and January. Even the 420 or something that we had turned. And everything else that was sitting through the kind of holidays is now sold and under contract or closed. So, but that's an indicator of it. So the supply demand factor, that was mentioned a while back. But I wanted you to see where you can find, because you can literally go to any zip code to speak of. Just click the zip code. That's what they kept saying. Oh, check on the Edmond 730. They want, just hit that zip code and there it is.
Wow, look at those prices.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what Dan said. Did you notice the average selling price and all that? But
5.3 would be.
That's like 3 of our
Fire.
houses down here.
Yeah, their average is in that neighborhood of, I was saying 285 last year, at the beginning of last year, average. We're averaging about 180 in South Oklahoma City.
Where are we?
73160, those are average and median. Let's see, Middell, this was the whole MLS, average about 188, 160 for median. But this was, this is more where we are. Ours are above this. The Green Meadow office average is around 180. And so I pulled the market share numbers out for 2017, and that's how I watch it. All these pages, see if I can. You guys have had them. Well, let's take a quick look. The entire MLS database average in 2017, $205,202. Entire. Green Meadow in 2017, I'm sorry, I was off by $35. $180,035 average sales price. Did you get that in there? Over there? That's that's Green Meadow in the entire database. So then you go to the South Oklahoma City section, Green Meadow. Let's just see what that says. The average sales price in South Oklahoma City, all offices, all Keller Williams offices, 184. But for Green Meadow, it's 182.5, so it's virtually the same. Average sales price, South Oklahoma City. So we're at 180 when the market's 140 something right there. And that's just that zip code there. But when you take all MLS, this is the everybody. And that is an average, so 186 is an average for February, 188 for average year to date.
And it's up from last year.
And it's up from last year.
Just had a guy tell me today, house prices are going down.
Well, maybe in his neighborhood. So that's why I keep these handy, because ultimately you can look at the average sales price of all of our competition, us, the whole thing. And because that's another one of our value propositions to basically say, this is if we're handling something between 175 and 200, we can say that's right in the square middle of our niche. That's what
73162 real fast.
162 coming right up. 73162. Here, drop it on 731. Now let's see if there's a 62 in here. There it is. Oh, it's so glad to be of service.
Where's that?
I don't know.
Northwest Oklahoma City.
Northwest Oklahoma City.
So right there, look at that though. Up 48% pending sales, up 68% closed sales. I mean, those are big numbers compared to a year ago. You can hardly say it. It's 2.6 months on the market. Months supply. Leslie, does that make sense what that means? Yeah. 6 months supply is a balanced market, 5 to 7, but around 6 is balanced. Buyers and sellers don't have much of an advantage over each other because the supply and demand is pretty balanced. Just about as many buyers as we have sellers. But when you get down below 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, when you get into 2s, the sellers have got a huge advantage. They say, take it or leave it. I've got 10 more people coming tomorrow. That kind of dynamic could be what's playing out, especially in the average sales price points. So here's the thing we need to get out of this. We need to get out there on the farms and say, guys, we're short on inventory. Part of the problem is we're selling a lot, but the other part of the problem is we only have the same number of properties we had last year, but we're selling them at that many more a month. holy cow, it's getting urgent. So let's get, when is it a good time to sell? Yes, it is. Why? We're short on inventory. Is it a good time to buy? Yes, it is. Because of the
Rivendell, where the inventory is high.
Pardon me?
It's Rivendell, 24 houses or more,
That's,
That's high inventory.
Yeah.
so yeah, it's all local in terms of what, what's going on in your neighborhood.
Because it's the price point, right?
It could be the price point, some of it, but they,
Yeah, but still, 24 houses is a
yeah, but
lot in my neighborhood.
but that's a huge neighborhood. I don't know how many houses are in
What do you think?
Rivendell.
You think they're 400?
Oh, there's at least 400. 600, you think?
Oh, that's not that many.
So 25 with 600 is not too much. 25 in 200 or 300 is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to show you guys this again. For you guys that haven't seen it, all of you have seen it before, except maybe Leslie. I don't know if you've been in the room when I got to pull this up. But ultimately, that's a big old factor as far as what's going on is those dynamics. So, market conditions, competition. Do one or two agents actually have a great deal of market share? We've talked about that a little bit already. I mean, what was the number again that we said if they have more than this percentage of the transactions in a year, it's probably another farm location would be good?
30%.
30%. Thank you, Patty. That's what we call review. Until we get to the point where we're bored of hearing it because now we know it so well. All right, very good. You fit for the farm. An important question to ask yourself about your select farmers: can I relate and fit in with them? Can I relate? The homeowners must be comfortable with you and vice versa. You have to speak their language, walk their walk. You want to develop mutual trust and respect. Are you comfortable with the price range and the look and feel of the neighborhood? Is a country club area the right fit for it? Is a retirement community the right fit? Is a busy suburban neighborhood a right fit? I think, I don't know if I've got it in here or not, but yeah. Over at the end, at the Platinum office, Chris and Nikki Buckaloo work over there. They have worked in other places, I think Florida for a season of time. They're here in Oklahoma City now for about the last 3 years. This came out of the Ignite material, the 2007 Ignite material. And there's an article on them in here. Now, they were in, let's see, where is that? Oh, they were in Oklahoma then. But it talks about them farming retirement communities. And that's precisely what she's doing now. I met Nikki at what used to be Prudential years ago. She was in one of my classes and I was her teacher. And she's become nationally famous. I don't know if that's going to happen to you, but it could happen one more time, sometime in the next 5 years. Yep, Leslie, you're on the track.
So retirement communities as in?
Well, when people are senior citizens getting ready to retire and live in assisted living or or going to nursing homes, things like that. It says here, Chris and Nikki started getting to know the marketing people from local retirement communities whose job it was to provide tours and answer objections from prospective tenants. One of the biggest objections they encountered was many senior citizens needed to sell their current houses before they could move in. A reliable real estate agent was therefore vital. That's what she's doing now. She made it a point to tell people that she was a realtor who worked with senior citizens. That is a demographic that has a need for information. And so they are doing seminars. And they invite people over, senior citizens, to seminars about once a month and come, and then they bring in experts on these dynamics. Do you have to sell your house? And if so, when? And what are those dynamics? And of course, if they need to sell their house and they're getting to that
Estate
point.
sellers, people that can clean my house, get them out, and then.
Yeah, how do we deal with all of those dynamics? Yeah, I've got the stuff and I really can no longer even deal with getting it sold if I need to or whatever, the family doesn't want to. So they made a very big business out of that. In fact, she called me about 2 years ago, and I think Susanna was on maybe vice president or at least in the executive world at the board, saying to me, can we get a field in the MLS that says senior citizen or retirement community, area. Because the field, when we first got Matrix rolled out, was nothing, there was nothing on it. And they said they would, as far as I remember getting this, as far as I know, they did, and I remember heard an email saying, that's been done. It took us months, but we got it done. And that's an important field because we've got 78 million baby boomers that are retiring and moving in that direction. We need to be able to search for 55 plus, communities in our MLS system without having to just know where they are. But that became a search field, I believe. So I got to look again and see, because I haven't looked in it for it since then. So anyway, now, let's see. Selecting demographics and psychographic farms. You spend 8 hours a day on 100 different things, or 8 hours on just one thing and come out better. It comes back to old Gary's the one thing principles. But 10 interrelated factors to consider when selecting a demographic or psychographic farms. Those are demographics, so as opposed to geographic farms. We're talking about geographic, which is neighborhoods. But the other farms, before you got here, Leslie, maybe you would have you a little bit, is demographic farms. Again, your goal, what kind of budget and time have you got? How big of an area, a group of people is it? How easily can you interact with them?
Is that what psychographic means? Interacting?
No, psychographic means a group of people that all like I mentioned, Maggie, dogs, or farming, or tractors, or some common hobbies.
Okay.
They all like OU basketball,
okay,
or whatever. That's a psychographic group, but it could be a farm. It's just a group of people that have the common interest, that just get around and they go to games and they do stuff, but at the end of the day, they meet people and know what each other does, and it can become a farm. So that's part of what we started out talking about, is the farm is generally thought of as geographic, but it does not have to be any kind of a neighborhood at all. It could just be a certain age group or people that have certain things in common. Average sales price is relevant again. Motivations in this group, depends on the age group, and I think probably as far as how much moving they'll do. This is a little harder to measure in terms of the market study to figure out, how many people. You just have to use the typical 2 out of 12 people in the population are moving every year. 2 out of 12, but not one out of 6. I got corrected. I said, well, good gosh, I can reduce that to 1 out of 6, 17%. And they said, well, yeah, you're good at math, but you're not that smart. 2 out of 12 is you got one of the two is they are moving, somebody you know. And the other one is somebody they know that you don't know. So the biggest percentage of opportunity in the people that you know is in not them, it's in who they know. Because they know 200. You know several hundred, and one of them. But the majority of the business opportunity is in the people that they know, not in the people you know. And so that's where the 2 out of 12 are moving. It is about somewhere between 15 and 16%. This material, if you get into it far enough, actually says that 15% of the population is moving every year. That's that 1 out of 6 or so, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. All right. And again, here's the competition and so on in that world. So let's go. Now, this talks a little bit about certain demographics, baby boomers and so on. Hispanics, people that speak Spanish and come from that part of the world. Let's see, they're making up back then 14% of all the first-time home buyers. Our 2017 National Association of Realtors Home Buyers, Home Sellers Survey thing said that we had 34% of all transactions were first-time buyers in 2017. 34%, down from 35 the year before, but we've been as low as 33%. Since we've been talking, since I've been over here since 2011. That number typically is supposed to be about 40 to 41%. You need a healthy number of first-time buyers because when they buy that one, the ripple happens. They buy something and they buy something, but without the first one, you don't have the rest sometimes. So ultimately, same study, foreign-born customers, Harvard study shows that more than 16% of all future first-time home buyers will be from an immigrant family. So then you've got second homes, luxury homes, other real estate agents. There's a bunch of people. You don't have to go but 30 miles north of here to get referrals from real estate agents. One of the reasons I go up and teach in North Oklahoma City is to basically say, guys, if you need somebody that is competent in South Oklahoma City, I can recommend somebody. Oh, by the way, it's not me, but it is Susanna. And so I did it in your class. They came over to Elite last week for their post-license class, and I finally got it in. I worked it in there. And so, by the way, you'd have to use Leslie, Ian, and Valerie, or Susanna, if you were going to
Or Susanna, or Susanna.
Sometimes they got 20 years experience, whatever. But I mean, we've always, because
See,
of being
that's been your farm,
it has been.
because your teaching has been your farm, and you have brought in a lot of people to, I mean, hey, we're here for you if you need us on the south side. You know, you didn't.
Well, they do need us on the south side. If you just think a minute when you're going up to Deer Creek or up in, Edmond even, how lost you kind of feel finding your way around and relying on your GPS, and you can find that address, that's fine. But you don't know what church, what shopping, what all that is around it.
You do if you go on it.
If you go enough, you do. And that's exactly right. I've gotten comfortable with it because I've been up there enough to kind of know what's around it. But that's part of the value proposition we're bringing to the table is not only what are you buying as far as the property is concerned, but you're buying a lifestyle here. And a life experience that includes a Walmart a mile away or not, or whatever else, that goes with that. If you have to go 20 miles to get bread, we can't live there because we'd be driving it 3 times a day. There's something we forget every time we go there. But it's handy to have it down the street a mile. Now, we didn't plan that. It just happened to be there. But anyway, another one, single buyers, pet-friendly neighborhoods, student housing. Norman's got student housing all over the place. We got a lot of waterfront in the area, but I mean, it's not common. We're not known as waterfront, but there's quite a bit of waterfront in Oklahoma. First-time home buyers, there's the number. That's actually, it was 33% in that year. This, by the way, this material, I hate to show it to you, but it's still relevant. 2015 is the copyright, and 33% of first-time buyers, which was the lowest it's ever gotten. It never got below that. And like I said, last year was 34%. The year before, I guess 16 was 35. So we bumped it up a little bit. But what we've been saying, as far as the demographic is concerned, you young people get in, form a household and buy a house and hurry up about it because the inventory is low and prices are going up and the interest rates are now going up too with it. And you should have bought a house last year, but you better buy one this year because you're going to pay more next year and the interest rate's going to be higher. So your payment, your monthly investment is going to be more by $50, $60 a month or more for the same exact house next year as it is now, based on the current trends. I haven't shown you the interest rate thing, but ultimately, this vision speech has got that interest rate in it. I got to go all the way back to the front of this. All the way up to here and basically come down here and just say, okay, we're right there. Now, the only direction the rates can hardly do from here, and that's 16, 17s were up a little. I haven't seen the numbers, but I know they were not much. Still under 4 probably over for the year, but they will be higher than that in 18. I will predict it right now. Because when you have the country's economic dynamics, 300,000 new jobs, in I don't know when I've heard that until last month. In years, 10 years since I heard a $300,000 number, we've been having 250s routinely every month, new jobs, and so on. Unemployment down to 4% or whatever. We have all of that. Whatever's happening in Oklahoma is what is the local forecast, but the money thing is a national picture. The money comes from a national pot of money, not from an Oklahoma pot of money. Oklahoma can be in a depression, but the pot of money that we're pulling out of is a national thing, and if the country is not, the interest rates and the money is going to be affected by what's going on in the country, and even in the world, really. The 10-year Treasury bills, watch those. That predicts a little bit what interest rates are doing, and that has been inching up. They call it a basis point. 3 or 4.12. Well, that 2 is a basis point. When it goes up to 4.13, they say the interest rate went up 1 basis point. So it's a fraction. It hardly affects your payment. But if that keeps doing that long enough, it becomes tenths and quarters and halves, and a 0.5% interest rate is a noticeable difference in your payment. The combination of that, along with the prices going up, let's see if we got anything on prices. I might as well show you that while I'm here. Just to remind you, do you see a general trend here? That's why, Mr. Buyer, I'm telling you, buy now, because you're going to pay a little more if you don't, and you're going to have that rate. That interest rate thing is going to affect you more than this price rate increase. This is climbing at around 3 or 4%. That'll affect your payment some, but that interest rate put on top of that, another thing. So we were talking to our millennials. I'm going to pull it back to farming, a demographic. Anybody under 35 that you know, kids and grandkids of friends of yours, all your friends and your kids have houses, I'm sure. But if they don't, hurry up. But let's get their friends going, because we should have first-time buyers at 40%. And I'll know we're doing our job and getting people going once we get to 40. But if we're not at 40% on first-time home buyers, we got work to do still, because that demographic is not forming households and getting into ownership as fast as they should. 83 million of them are out there. They're our biggest demographic in the country. Between 18 and 35, 83 million. Baby boomers was the next biggest generation. They were 78. So give you some perspective. Baby boomers going through wanted to hear oldies on the radios, and by God, we heard oldies, because that was the biggest percentage of the population, and they're going to hear what they want to hear. Millennials are going to do the same thing. They are so big, they're going to drive all kinds of dynamics in the marketplace. One of them, and I'm expecting us to have a boom in first-time buyers at some point, because they're going to jump in and take off because they're there, and they have to live somewhere. It goes back to that.
Everybody can't live in Midtown, you're gonna have to stretch.
Everybody can, that's right. And that's the thing. Whether you rent or whether you buy, you're paying for the space you occupy. And the price is going up, it sounds like. So hurry up. Okay. I'm going to go about 20 more minutes because we only had one break. And then we'll call it good. Anyway, condos, urban, we do have people downtown. They're specializing in just that the condominium type properties. They do nothing else. And so on. So, you taking a picture of it?
No, I've already got it.
All right, you got it.
Yes.
You know, those condos downtown are going for some serious money.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. That's why not everybody can live downtown. We're going to have to find something a little more affordable. But it might be that it needs to be low maintenance and so on. Because what are they going down there for? Well, to be close to some of that stuff. But at the same time, maybe it's just so they just want to come home and don't have to take care of anything. So there's never been a time where we were in contact with so many different generations. Let's look here. Baby boomers age 60 and up are selling their family homes and downsizing to a small home condo. Their children are echo boomers and their grandchildren are millennials. That's who they are. So if we are hanging around baby boomers, we are not just hanging around them, we are also influencing the echo and the millennials. Because mom and dad, we need to get the kids into a house. The interest, they're gonna pay more. They want one, the millennials say they want one. But one of the reasons they're not buying one, some of them, is that they don't know they don't have enough down payment, they don't think. Do not know that down payment assistance programs exist. They think they gotta have 20% to put down, and they never have 20%. But they don't need 20%. That's our job, is to get out there and let them know. Echo boomers, they're buying a second home, investment property, moving to a larger home. They're 40 to 60. Kids are baby boomers. Millennials, they're leaving the nest and buying their first home or condo. Their grandparents are typically baby boomers, sometimes echo boomers, but they're between 20 and 40. But I mean, the technical, the 18 to 35, I said, I remember now, is 83. Finally got it in my head, 83 million. Between 16 and 35, there are 93 million. So that there's another big bunch continuing. That just because time passes, it's not going to shrink. It's actually going to expand a little bit as far as the number of people. And like I said, whether you rent or whether you buy, you pay for the space you occupy. They're going to have to live somewhere.
And younger families now are having more children than we did.
That's and that's if that's true, and I think you're
They all
right.
have 4+ now. Everybody living in Midtown has 4+ kids.
Crazy.
You have
Yeah.
2 and 1.
The young people among us that are in real estate are going to have plenty to do for the foreseeable future. And frankly, every time something gets a little more challenging, Leslie's apologizing last night at what hour was it, for God's sake, 9:30 or something? Yeah, about 9:30. I have a question. Because we
Really,
got,
it was 8:30, but it felt like 9:30.
oh yeah, that's right. That's very right.
Daylight savings time.
That's good salesmanship. She got me back to reality. If it had been last week, this would have been only been 8:30, you would have been grinding. And I forget what my point was going to be.
I was bugging you at night.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I've got people to help. Things are happening. Got a house sold here. First time around, I need help. What comes next? Does this look okay? I like it. She's super cautious. She sends it to me and says, hey, take a look at this. And so are we still paying for a PIN survey?
Yes,
The buyers, I mean, the realtor run the PIN survey on a normal conventional in-town house. And I just wondered why. When a mortgage inspection certificate would do, but it's not our, it doesn't affect us. The buyer's
Not
paying
my
for
deal,
it
right?
on this transaction with the new form. The buyer's paying for it. Now, if it was a PIN survey on the other one, they would have had an initial something that said they were. So it made me wonder if that realtor knew if they were actually asking for them. Hispanics are expected to make up 14% of first-time home buyers and 5% of all buyers. So those are down, this is a little bit old, but I mean, it's 2015, so it's about 3 years old data, but it's not far off from where we are today. So foreign-born buyers, just interesting little statistics that kind of tell us where to look for business, what to farm. Let's see. Now we've got tips for foreign-born. I want to spend, you guys can. I'll tell you what you can do. You can go to.
You can tell me this after I've taken all these pictures.
Yeah, you could go to this material and find it yourself.
Okay.
And this is just farming, a session on farming. Now I have created a folder on my computer, so I just double click and there they are. So if I'm going to teach the class,
Where is that?
3612.3. Let me show you.
What does that mean, 36?
What's it mean? I love it when I get a question I actually can't answer. 3612.3 means
3 months.
36 closings in 12 months, 3 hours a day prospecting is what it actually stands for. And so, but let me go to mykw.kw.com because you've got way more than just farming stuff here. So let's go to MyKW, we'll log in, you check your percentage up there, make sure it's 100%. Now don't laugh, Leslie, I know it's hard, but I gotta keep mine 100% because I've got to let somebody know it can be done. Like the 4-minute mile, for God's sake, yeah, you can't have it.
Can't put what's
But
missing.
somebody
You
knows
get-
Yeah.
that.
I know, me either. I was like, what am I not having?
So when you get here, everybody knows to get here. But then education, that makes sense. Go to the education tab and go down just one notch to KW Connect. Just one notch. The first thing you can do, and click on it. And then you get this page. It's got all kinds of stuff. I keep looking for that vision speech like Gary did last year. It's got all the numbers on it. Hasn't come yet, but I got it better because he promised it. He said, we're gonna go record that separately after the family reunion. I recorded that and I have it in my own, in the Green Meadow Tech stuff. So I scroll down past all these magnificent opportunities to learn. I keep going and going until I get to Ignite. They say, where? I thought you were going to 3612.3. I am. I don't have a 3612.3 on this thing somewhere, so I'm going to Ignite. Little bubble says Ignite. So everybody that takes Ignite, I take them to this over and over and over. Frank
Don't
said,
have this in my night book?
no.
Okay.
You don't, because I'm not going there, but here's why. See, I got to Ignite, which you have the book on. There's the books over here. But there's 3612.3. It's another free class with course material. So let's click on course material here. And up comes stuff, and there's nothing here. You can buy materials, but I'm not interested in buying it. I'm just going to go up here to materials. Just under this tab up here where it says materials. Once I click course materials, and when I do that, it comes up with instructor files and student files. I don't know if everybody gets instructor files, but I'm
Yeah.
labeled
we
as an
just see the
instructor.
other file.
So you just see these. I always say, just go to the longest thread here, this longest one. Yeah, go to that one. Because you can mess around with the others and find out, no. But just go to the longest one that doesn't make sense here and click on it. And then mine tells me to open it, once security and everything else. So hang on a second here, pretty soon it'll come up. And
Was that under student funds? It's under student.
yeah, it was under student files, longest thread.
Okay.
Thank you, Robbie. I want you to, because you're getting it here. This one's going to go find this. Now, here's what I have. I have this gold mine kit. You don't have to wait for me to come in here. You can just come in here and click on, let's see, where is it? Any one of these subjects. Open house, for sale by owners, expireds. You can click on your business plan right here. But all these are, this has got 40, 57, 58 pages on the subject of farming. And I got
And
it
is that just one of
out
the
here.
documents?
It's just one of these.
Wow.
Yes. So if you want to read and get, dig into this, just go find the subject
So
that
you
you're
could do
after.
the search up there and put farming?
Right here, maybe so. I don't know. I don't have farming coming up right there. There's expireds, facts about expireds. I don't see my farming one in this group. It's bound to be in there somewhere. I just don't know where it is. But anyway, this material, it's a whole course.
Well, you can get lost in that.
Yeah, for sale by owner letters, for sale by owner packet, expired. Reason I generally show people this all the time is to go to this business planning section, which is not about, but it could be about farming, I guess, but when I click on this business plan, I can open up that Excel spreadsheet. And if you're sitting figuring out, this got the old 2007 thing in there, but here, the economic model. And this thing is where you can go and say, you know what? I need to sell this many transactions a year, and anything that's in red, you can change. And the rest of it's an Excel spreadsheet will automatically calculate it for you. So 36 units, let's just say 24. Oh, I gotta edit, enable editing. And 24. And half of it's listings, half of it's buyers. I'm experienced, so I've got some experience, and it's basically going to sit here and say, you need 2 listing appointments and 2 buyer appointments with an average sales price of $250,000. But, you know, it doesn't even matter what your sales price is. 24 of them means you got to have at any price. 2 listing appointments, 2 buyer appointments, roughly a month to hit it. 1 a week. Now, that's with your conversion rates at experienced level. But when I do these, I say for somebody brand new, I just adjust them down 10%. And let's just see what it does. Let's see, 55. And now it takes me up to 2.5 instead of 1.9 because my conversion rates are not as good. I'm not going to have as many listings that I get on appointment. When I go on a listing appointment, I don't get as many, 7 out of 10 instead of 8. And of the ones I get listed, I'm going to sell 65% of them, or 55% of them instead of 65% of them. That's what this says. But in a market like we got, when you looked at 2-point-something month supply, you are not going to just sell 65% of them. If you got price ranges that are selling, you're going to get more than that. But none of you are going to come to me and say, "Don, you dirty dog, I sold 60. I got 65% instead of 55%, and I made quite a bit more money." You know, I went ahead and did the 2.6 like you told me, and I made more than 180,000 in gross commission income. Nobody ever complains about it, so I never worry about that. But you can change. You put your price range in here, and you got to figure the commission on that. 200,000 in our, in our neck of the woods. So 2, that's 6,000 at 3%. So.
See, that really makes sense why you need to farm. Know which price range of homes you really want to work with.
Yeah. So we had 180,000 in there a minute ago with 250. Now we got 144. That's 40,000 difference. Nothing changed except the sales price. That's why I've said over and over, before you pick a farm, before you get out of bed, before you do anything, choose a price point that is your target, because all of your decisions after that are rooted in that number. I'm getting ready to have an open house. I'm not having one there. That is a $180,000 listing. No, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. I need a 200 plus here. Why? Because that's what my goal is. Now I'm getting ready to go farm an area. Why do I? Well, now I can't farm an area that's going to be $180,000 properties. That doesn't fit. Or I've got to adjust my goal. I need a few more of these. I can do 180s, no problem. Just got to sell about 5 more of them. You saw that number a while ago in Edmond. You're just, bam! The difference in terms of number of units, wear and tear on your real estate machine. You can have 50 units at 150 or 50 units at 350, and there's a lot of difference. And so I remember a few years ago, back in '88, I think it was, I looked at the list of, there used to be a book of lists, still is, I think, with the Journal Record of realtors and what, top realtors and so on. And I made that list that year, but I sold as many, Ann Campbell's famous, but she was one of the top, that year she was the top agent in Oklahoma City. And she had closed almost exactly the same number of units I did. But she had, I don't know how many millions of dollars bigger volume because of her average sales price than mine. Mine was about 45,000 and hers was like 200. Wow. And I mean, but I'll never forget it. Holy cow. If I'd have been born in Edmond, I said to myself, never dreaming I could go across the river and live there if I wanted to. Anyway, so that's why I want you guys to come, but just find, information. There's lead sheets and just all kinds of things in this 3612.3. The most valuable thing is that business plan thing where you can literally on any day, you can just save that. That's a spreadsheet. Just save it to your computer like I have, and you just double click at any time and see what would 2 or 3 more appointments a month do. And just, it's amazing what that number, just appointments, you increase that number by 1.
And what's the 12 stand for?
12 months. 36 closings in 12 months, 3 days a day prospect. So that's the course. And Ignite is geared to 16 transactions a year, based on 10 a day contacts. But in 3612 free, it's more than 10. So, all right, now, we're about there. Let's just see if there's anything else here real quick. Close this out, that down. Is this here? Nope. Let's go back over here and get to my these and this. All right, let's scroll through second home and investment buyers. That's another area of specialty. People that want to invest, investment property. By the way, anybody that has a child that's young, just born 2, 3 years old, is a prospect for investment property. They don't know it. But we got college coming in about 18 years, maybe 15, and we ought to plan for that. And one of the things we can suggest they do is just buy a piece of investment property at today's prices. Let somebody else pay for it over the next 15 years and then sell that or do whatever you want to do with it in order to pay for this child's college. You got 2 kids? Oh, for God's sake, I'm behind a little here. I need to get started. We got it. Yeah, I mean, so that idea. But I mean, what triggers your mind when you're talking to your demographic area or any people you know about this investment property thing? Well, kids ought to. Young kids. Young kids ought to trigger your mind right away to think, oh gosh, how are we going to, if you got a plan for paying for college, I've got an idea. It might sound a little self-serving, but it'll work.
So we're out-of-state children, we can have them buy in Oklahoma.
They can buy it at home and buy anywhere else as far as that goes, and possibly, at least you get referral
I
fees.
don't think Dallas, I don't think my kids can afford to buy anymore in Dallas.
Let's get out there, we gotta get to 50 miles outside of town. That's a good
It's
point.
a good investment.
Yeah,
I can buy it here and
Yeah.
let you manage.
and let it be managed here, and then when the kids get old enough for college, they can be set.
81% of today's affluent under 35 years old are planning to buy a luxury home in the coming year. That's an amazing stat. 81% of today's affluent under 35. So there are affluent people that are under 35. They live in California in out there with Washington State where all the technology stuff is. But KWLuxuryHomes.com is a great place to go and look into luxury home stuff. By the way, I'm here, and it really is across the country, 500,000. You're eligible to apply for the luxury home status. You can go to that training, get that designation, but you've got to have at least 3 closings of 500,000 or more in the last 12 months. Rick, you're a candidate for that. Yeah, your world is you're a candidate for that, where you create the designation and the differentiation. What's different about, why should you hire Rick for this $1 million project? Because I'm a luxury home specialist. I have the credential. Does this clown that sold 2 houses have that? And so ultimately at the end, along with it comes the education with how to market that. That's a different animal than your average sales price. I'm telling you, when you go to marketing luxury, you cannot do the same thing as you do when you're $300,000 or $200,000. Determining your farm as a niche or a niche is only limited by your imagination. I'm only about halfway through this stuff. Defining your identity. What's your value proposition? Trust and respect is always a player. Now, here's a little something right pretty quick. We'll finish up. Defining your style. Is your style? This is an interesting exercise. I don't know if we've got it. Is that on there? Paper somewhere, maybe. Anyway, there is a page, I think, that deals with it.
Personality, image.
Yeah, it's under, let's see, what is it? It's under the section defining your identity and positioning.
Yeah,
You
so
see
page
it?
13,
13. Page
middle
13.
slide.
But right here, it's an interesting little thing for you to do, just to basically say, am I more informal, business casual, other? Am I conservative, flamboyant, bohemian? I don't know what that is. I have to look at it.
You're not that, no.
I'm not that, okay. Thank you, Leslie. Good thing you came when you did, because I wouldn't know. luxury, middle class, working class combination, retirees, families, recent, conservative, middle-aged, younger, older. I'm middle-aged now. When my
Gonna live to be 130.
when my grandfather was this age, he was old. But no, not me. So, and then, just some of this, but it's interesting just to kind of think, who would you just be comfortable hanging around? And that kind of a thing a little bit. You have a little bit of a choice as to who it is, especially with a demographic or a psychographic group. Describe how you're unique and memorable. What's your background, education, hobbies, appearance, personal connections? How are you memorable? And every one of us have something like that that we have going for us. And then the book, The Words That Sell, is a book. Got it? Words. This is just pulled out of it. My 8 of this. Hardworking, articulate, honest. There's some of those that ought to be probably universal for all of us, and some that are unique to us. Tenacious. I think we got a little tenacious in the room. I don't know how much patience we got in the room. Because I don't bring much. Anyway. All right, so there's a little 10-minute exercise there. But anyway, these are some of the exercises that we go through in that course. And looking through it. Establish your reputation first. We'll stop there. Establish your reputation first, which means you create do some good work. Get some raving fans, and then go sell that. Which is, people that, that give you reviews, people that go on to Facebook and basically say, the things. I get them once in a while in this world. Patty, you've been part of it, and others, whether you said, yeah, that was a great class, or yeah, you need to go to that, don't miss that, or whatever. That is part of why people come and spend time in the room, is because the history, the previous experiences. And if they were terrible, nobody would come. I don't care how pretty the flyer is or how beautiful the words were inviting you. It's the experience that people have that you get and create the reputation of, and then go out in the marketplace. And the testimonials, it's always better for someone else to say it about you than it is for you to say it. So if you can find somewhere else to say, and that's in fact, if you're writing something, people say, even if you're writing it, it's writing in the third person. You need to pretend, step out. If you're writing a profile of yourself, what do I bring? What's my unique value proposition? Step out of yourself and start writing in third person. Don is, he is, not I am. Because I am, you can't do. I can't even write about myself or us until I start writing it in third person as if I'm somebody else looking on, writing that. Then I can write it and get it pretty accurate because I know the value proposition once I start thinking about it. But we started out with that, almost the very first thing we talked about. What is your value proposition to these people that you're about to farm? And we need to know that before we start. What are we selling? How are we different? And every one of you are. Some people are more different than others. I should refer to Rick on that one, probably a little. All right. It's 10 minutes to 4. We have only had one break. I give you the gift of 10 minutes of discretionary time you didn't know you were going to have. I'm going to sign out to Shawnee and Midwest City. Thank you for inquiring about the PowerPoint pages. This thing is recorded for 3 hours and not dropped once. That's what I call a victory. Thank you for coming, you guys.
Good job, Don.
All right.